So hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to. So we are back with a brand new movie on What If Neglected Naruto was general in Dxd Harem with Seekvaira movie, but before we start, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. The sounds of sirens were blaring as people stared at the body that was laying on the ground. Broken glasses, traces of small bits of blood surrounded the body. People could only whisper as they stared at the broken youth on the floor. The crowd could only watch as the life slowly faded away from the blonde-haired youth. But the noise fell on deaf ears as the teenage male stared into the empty sky above him. The young man was one Naruto Uzumaki, and at the age of 18, he was dying after pushing a young lady out of the way of a speeding car just for him to be hit with the full force of the car. With that one action, his life was now coming to end, and there was only one thought going through his head. I did one good thing for another person and the world decided to give me the biggest fuck you ever. Ow, ow, ow. Yeah, I shouldn't try to move any part of my body. God damn it, I don't want to die like this. I'm sorry, Dad. Mom. Were his last thoughts as he closed his eyes and let the darkness consume him. The next day the sound of an alarm clock rang throughout the room as a lone figure laid in the bed. The person moved his hand and shut off the alarm clock. Without trying to move, the person stayed in bed, not wanting to move out of the warm embrace of his mattress. Just as he was about to go back to slumberland, a loud knock rang out through the room. Naruto Uzumaki. You better wake up. Just cause I allowed you to sleep in for whole day yesterday doesn't mean I'm going to let you sleep in for whole day again. Especially on a school day. The voice yelled out through the door, attempting to wake up the sleeping blonde on the other side. I'm up, the person slowly answered back, trying everything he could to wake himself. He heard his mother answered back, as the echo of her feet on the wooden floor faded away from his hearing. Wait. Naruto nearly shouted as he shot up and almost jumped out of his bed, and looked around him. Yes, he saw that he was in his room, and quickly feeling his body, he felt everything was still in place. He was still standing at 5 feet 11, still had his spiky blonde hair, and the same blue eyes. But there was something nagging at the back of his mind. Glancing around the room, he noticed that everything was still in place. Nothing was moved and he felt perfectly fine, but no matter how much he looked around, he felt that there was something off. If as though a big change had happened, but he couldn't remember as to what it was. Quickly grabbing an orange shirt and a pair of black pants, he changed as fast as possible and started to hop around his room as he put on a pair of black sneakers and quickly left the room before grabbing his backpack and closing the door behind him. Running down the stairs, he saw that his mother, Kushina, was finishing setting up breakfast. No time to eat, Mom. Naruto told her, as he grabbed a piece of toast and started to munch on the piece of bread. As he ran towards the front door, he was about to leave his house when he heard his mom call out for him. Naruto, I know you were not happy with his move, but this time we're going to be here for good. His redhead mother told him, knowing that his father business kept him moving all over the world. Naruto moved so much around the world that he wasn't able to really make friends, as he lost touch with most of them after a year or two after moving. At this point he stopped trying to make friends and mainly kept to himself. He would play pranks on others and help people when they asked for it, but that was it. It's alright, Mom, I'm sure I can make some friends soon around here. It's only the start of the school year in England. Naruto reassured her, but he didn't want to make some friends before losing the bond with them. It hurt for Naruto knowing that the friends he made faded away from his life. While he did attempt to do everything he could to stay in touch, he would realize there it slowly became helpless when there was no way to do anything with them besides talk. Hey, do you want to grab some ramen this weekend? His mother asked, knowing that would cheer him. It always had since he was a little boy. Sounds like fun. Naruto gave her a grin. I just hope that they have a place around here that could make it just as good as the ones in Japan. He told her, as started to walk out the door. His mother nodded and gave him a kiss on the cheek as he left the house. After walking a few blocks from his house, Naruto started to feel a little strange. The sunlight was causing him some minor discomfort, and that was odd for him. He was normally always outdoors, being a person that liked to be active outside instead of stuck at home. But now the light was causing him some minor pain. It wasn't the heat, but it was the light which was odd in his mind. He was a daytime person, but now the light was hurting him. Not in a major way, but in a small way. Like his body was telling him he should be active in the evening. And that did not sit well with him. He was used to feeling a little down after every move due to his father being in the military. That was caused mainly knowing that he was going to be a stranger to wherever he was going to move to. With no friends and no one to hang out with, he only had himself in his free time. The friends he had will slowly fade away from his life and it will repeat. It hurt him greatly, but he was getting used to it, knowing that there was nothing he could really do since this was the life he was born into. All he could do was smile and grin with his lifestyle and keep moving forward. No reason to let his past ruin his life for him. Why can't I remember anything from yesterday? Naruto mumbled to himself as he kept walking. Every time he tried to think of what he might have done yesterday, all he could come up with was a blank. And that did not sit well with him. Finally coming to the gates of his school, he stopped walking and looked at the school. He knew he shouldn't ditch class, but his mind wouldn't let him forget his train of thoughts. He needed to figure out why an entire day had vanished from his mind. The blonde quickly started to run in the other direction from his school, heading towards the public library to look up and find out whatever had happened to him the other day. And maybe put a rest to this nagging feeling. Without any further hesitation, he walked towards the library. After several minutes, he finally reached the public library in town. For Naruto, the building was probably one of the largest buildings that he has ever seen. It also kept the old style to it, making it seem just a bit creepy. Walking towards the door, he pushed it open and walked inside. Just like the outside, the inside had an old style in the building. Aisles of bookshelves were all presented in front of him. By the front of the doors, he could see that there was a middle-aged male, probably the person in charge for the hour, sitting there typing on his computer. "Can you help me?" Naruto asked him, as he was not sure as to where the books that he needed were located, or even the locations of the computer here. The moment that the guy's gaze landed on Naruto, everything in his body told him to get away. His danger sense was going off, telling him to get away from this person before something could happen to him. The computers are located in the back. Next to the computers, he brushed off Naruto, going back to his work, thinking that he was like every other teenage that only came to the library to goof off on the computer. Jackass. Naruto mumbled under his breath, thinking that it was rude that the guy didn't bother to ask him what his question was going to be. Without another second thought, the blonde walked towards the back and saw the computers lined up. Picking a random one, he turned on the computer and logged in. Naruto took a few minutes to think about what he needed to search for. He typed in blackouts within the search engine, and the results he received were everything from power failure to medical disorders. Knowing that he needed to further expand on his search, he typed in a few more words to help him out. Adding the words, "entire day in Animesa" to his search, he saw that better results were showing up for him. But like before, there was no results on what he was looking for. He couldn't find any clues or explanation as to how a person could lose a day and all memories of that day. Damn you, internet. Naruto grunted out, as he slammed his head on the table, frustrated that he was getting nowhere in his search. The blonde lightly banged his head repeatedly on the table, not noticing that his forehead banged against the keyboard and clicking a random page. If you're watching this, then something has happened to me. I don't know why I kept researching the supernatural. I wish I had let the event go and kept on with my life. But I wanted to figure out how I lost a whole day of my life, and now this is where it has brought me to. Naruto's head snapped up and looked at the person that was talking. He saw that the male speaking had large bags under his eyes, combined with his exhausted expression told Naruto that he was not getting any sleep in a long time. A while back I lost a friend in a weird situation. He died with a large hole in his chest, and there was no way to trace back as to how it was done. The odd thing about his death was that me and him were texting each other before his death. Why does that little information matter? That conservation happened on the day I lost. And in those text messages he claims to have seen a person with wings flying around town. That the wings looked to be as black as the dark sky. The man rubbed his temples before he looked at the camera. After that the conservation ends and the entire day was forgotten. Shortly after that I had lost almost a week of memories. But I had written my past week in a private journal. When I look into this journal, this is what I had written. A woman by the name of Gabriel has transferred to my college. Her beauty seems to be almost unnatural, almost unobtainable by human standards. Her first action was to come to me and tell me that my friend had a strong belief in God and that he was now in his embrace. How does she know my friend, and why did she speak to me out of everyone? Why did she speak about God like she was his kid? And how come after a few days no one has any memories of her, and neither do I? After I had read my journal, I searched around town trying to find any clues about a woman by the name of Gabriel. While looking for clues, I came across the strangest of sights. I saw a man in the sky with black wings. He had 2 sets of wings on his back, but I was not sure if I was just seeing things. As I stared in awe, a feather hit me in the face, proving to me that what I saw was real, and I was scared. Several days after I had done everything to make my home evil-proof. My bedroom had every inch covered in crosses to ensure that no evil would enter. I even was able to find a doorknob that was made by holy metal that was blessed by the Pope. But on one night something happened. I will show you the footage outside of my room of the night. A video started to play, showing the door to his bedroom. Everything was in place, nothing seemed to be ruined. Then footage was fast forward till it showed 1:27 a.m. in the morning. As the film went on, it suddenly went into static for a few seconds before returning back to normal. Once it returned, the hall had a vase knock over and the doorknob seemed to have melted halfway. By the time I had woken up and looked outside, I found a few black feathers on the floor. I don't know what I had stumbled upon, but I am living in fear. Afraid that my life is getting closer and closer to the end. Maybe if. What are you watching? Naruto nearly jumped out of his seat but was able to keep himself in. He looked up and saw that it was the same creepy librarian had sneaked up on him. A large grin formed on his face as he eyed Naruto. Some random video. Naruto uneasily answered, not sure if he should trust the man in front of him. The man looked over Naruto's shoulder and gave out a large chuckle. Oh, I remember that guy on the news. He was some lunatic that thought devils were real before they found him dead in his home with a large hole in his chest. They never could find his killer. The man laughed for a few seconds before turning his gaze back to Naruto. Piece of advice, kid. Only the crazy believe in this stuff. Just walk away from it. Even knowing that the man in front of him was trying to be friendly towards the blonde, every fiber in Naruto's being was telling him to get away from this weird librarian. That he was not a person to mess with. Yeah, I will listen to you. Naruto muttered out, as he started to grab his things to leave. Thanks for your advice. Without a second thought, Naruto took off and quickly walked towards the door, not noticing the cold smile forming on the librarian. Asterisk a few blocks down after leaving the library and knowing that he had given himself his own personal day off from school, the blonde decided that he was just going to head back home and enjoy his free time. Both his parents should both be at their jobs, giving him the entire house to himself. Lazily walking home, he turned the corner towards his street. Are you ready to die now, stray devil? A cold voice behind Naruto, freezing him in his tracks. Naruto slowly turned around and saw that the same librarian from earlier was leaning on a wall looking at him with a crazed grin on his face. What did you call me? Naruto slowly asked him, fear going throughout his entire body. He knew that there was something wrong with the librarian from earlier, but now seeing him just appear out of nowhere scared him. That was a feat of its own. Nothing has even scared the blonde, but this one man just had a strange aura around him that just made Naruto lose his courage. A devil. A stray one at that. Where is your master, young devil? He slowly walked up to Naruto. Just as he was in arm's length of the blonde, a fist came crashing into his jaw, knocking the librarian back a step. You damn devil. He wiped the blood of his chin, surprised that the blonde drew blood from him, but smiled seeing that Naruto had yet to run from him. Happy at the thought the blonde was not going to make him give chase. He hated chasing devils across the town and then needing to erase people's memories if they caught a glimpse of anything. He eyed the blonde before giving him a smirk. Two sets of wings appear behind the mon's back. What caught Naruto's attention was not only did they just appear, but they were black as night. Watching the blonde, he went into the sky before bringing his hand out. Naruto, staying on the defense, waited for his to make his next move. Even though his body was telling him to move, he couldn't bring himself to do so. Even after light started to form in his hand and started to take form. Die. After saying that one simple word, a spear made of blue light quickly soared towards the blonde. Naruto could only stare in awe as the spear made its way towards him. Just as it was a few inches away from, a blue wall went around Naruto. The wall not only stopped the spear from hitting the blonde, but it started to form a dome around him. Damn, I thought he was a stray. The fallen angel said to himself, as he looked down at the blonde. Why did you attack my rook? A cold voice drawing the attention of the two. They both turned their attention to the source of the sound and saw a young woman was walking towards the both of them. What really caught Naruto's attention was the silver long hair she had and the glasses that she wore. I will introduce myself to you. I am Seekvaira Agaras, and I demanded to know why did you attack my rook, fallen angel. Seekvaira was not in a pleasant mood. Since the start of the week she was not very happy with everything that was going on with her life. No, she had decided that she needed to do a peerage scouting mission in the human world. She had high hopes that somehow, some way she would find someone that would be one of a kind member. A person that would have the nobles talk about her. A person that will put her in the spotlight. And yet her newest piece had yet to do anything that has been even remotely impressive. And to prove her right, he somehow started a fight with a fallen angel. Well, a fight broke out between the both of them. Before the fallen angel could begin his assault on her new servant, she was able to stop the attack from making contact. And now here she was staring down the fallen angel, with pure hatred in her eyes towards this enemy. Why are you attacking my servant, fallen angel? Seekvaira's voice was as cold as steel. Her glare getting colder and colder towards the fallen angel. Her fist clutched to her sides as she readied herself for his next movements. I am sorry, Malady. I had thought he was a stray devil that had run away from his master. One that was free game to get hunt down and kill. He calmly told her, hoping that his words would stop her from attacking him. Know your place, fallen angel. She shouted at him, before she turned her back on him facing her new rook. She didn't want to continue her conversation with the fallen angel, as she felt that it was below her. Don't get her wrong, she had no real hatred against the fallen angels, holy angels. That did not mean that she was going calm whenever one of her peerage was being attacked by the enemy. I understand, devil. I will know. His eyes widened as he stared at all the magic runes that appeared all around him. All the magic runes surrounded his body, with no chance to escape. He looked at the young silver-haired devil below him. I said to know your place. She coldly told him, not bothering to face him. She could feel his gaze on her and how fear was rolling off his body. The fallen angel head moved back and forth trying to find a way to escape. But he knew that it was helpless. The power radiating from the runes were just too great. Naruto could only stare in shock with the scene playing out in front of him. The blonde was not sure if he was in some bad dream, or waking up into a new world filled with new mystery and danger. While he was not one that had a great belief in the supernatural, he did have some belief that the world had supernatural truth in it. He just had to wait and see what will happen now. Without giving her enemy a second glance, Seekvaira unleashed her attack. Coming out of the multiple rune spears of ice came forth, piercing the fallen angel body without mercy. Blood spluttered as the body slowly fell to the ground before vanishing into dust. With that out of the way, Seekvaira turned her attention to her new servant. Her eyes locked on the blonde, his shocked expression plastered all over his face. But she will give him points on his courage. He hasn't run away yet, even after seeing someone get killed in front of his eyes. Calmly walking to him, she could see that his fists were clutched, and his body was ready to take action if she attempted anything. Not that she was going to, but it was good for him to understand he was in a war zone. Can we go to your home to talk about what had happened? She asked him, feeling that everything that needed to be discussed about. Naruto stared into her gray eyes and nodded his head. But for some odd reason he felt safety coming from her. A feeling like something in his mind was telling him that she was not going to harm him. Not trusting his voice, Naruto nodded his head as he started to lead her to his home. After coming home and one long explanation later. So you're telling me not only did I die but I was also turned into a devil afterwards, and am now one your servants bind to you for as long as I live, while being involved in a long power struggle between three groups. Did I get that right? Naruto asked the silvered-haired beauty sitting in front of him, on his bed, while he sat in a chair across from her. She nodded her head, keeping a stone-cold expression on her face as she looked at her new servant. Like hell I will believe that. The blonde shot out of his seat and pointed his finger at the woman in front of him. She raised her eyebrow at his actions and could only stare at him dumbfounded. It's no secret that when people are revived that some could not quickly adjust towards all the new information. Even some refused to believe the supernatural until they were put into a life and death situation. Why is that so hard to believe? She calmly asked him, not sure about what he was finding hard to grasp. Maybe becoming a devil, or being a servant. Pushing her glasses up the bridge of her nose as she readjusted them on her face. She quietly stood up and walked towards him. You want proof? She looked into his eyes waiting for his response. He nodded his head, firm on his belief that he was disillusioned. That somehow everyone was playing a large joke on him. She looked into his eyes and gave him a slight nod of the head, before a pair of draconic wings sprouted from her back. Is that enough proof? She asked him with a large smirk on her face. Naruto could only stare at the wings in astonishment. The blonde felt that there was only one way to truly make sure that the wings were real and not some big elaborate plan. He walked behind her. Before she could open her mouth to ask what he was doing, he lifted her dress up. Kya! Her loud scream filled the house, followed by a loud smack and a louder thump as someone fell to the floor. Why the fell would you lift my dress up? Seekvaira shouted at him, a large blush on her face as her wings vanished. The blonde looked up, holding his cheek after the smack, and glared at the silver-haired beauty. I had to make sure they're real. He replied back at her, not sure how to explain why he did what he did. Naruto rubbed his cheek a little more, as the sting from her slap had yet to leave his face. Her slap felt like it was ice itself, but he was not sure how that was possible. He was sure that a woman with her slim figure and by the looks of small amount of muscle tone she couldn't hit as hard as she did. He knew that his actions could not be so easily forgiven, but he was sure the worst she would do was scream and yell pervert. Not give him a slap. Before we keep talking, can you at least go brush your teeth? Your breath sinks. She bluntly told him, trying to keep herself calm and stop herself from hurting him even further. She wouldn't admit it out loud, but she knew she had a short temper. And something in the back of her mind was telling her that she would end up yelling and fighting more with the blonde before they could really discuss the past events. Naruto gave her a light glare before hopping to his feet and walking to the bathroom. With him out of eyesight, she took a deep breath and tried to regain her calmness. Exhaling, she took a quick glance over his room to see if there was anything in the room she could relate to. A couple of posters were stuck on the wall. Walking around, she came to a stop as she looked over his shelf. On his shelf was the box set for Gundam Wing, along with its movie counterpart Endless Waltz. A large smile formed on her face at seeing the mecha anime in his collection. Yes, she loved mecha anime, and was not afraid to admit. It's one of the few things that she and a red-haired devil living in Japan could be civil about. Sorry about not brushing my teeth and giving you a smell of bad breath, a voice said behind her. Snapping her out of her thoughts on putting the anime in and start to watch it, the silver-haired devil turned around and saw Naruto exiting out of the bathroom. She smiled a bit, happy that he at least will follow some directions. Can we finally talk about this whole problem being your servant? Naruto asked her, as he took a seat across from her. She was surprised that he still wanted to talk about being turned into a devil again. She thought they were past this. What is there to talk about? She raised an eyebrow at him, hoping that they were going to finally end this conversation. Is there a way for you to release me from being your servant? Seekvaira was not surprised with that question. That question was one of the most common questions that devils were always asked, but there was only one answer for it. The only way you can leave my peerage is if you level up your status as a devil in the underworld. But even that might take years to do. The blonde let out a sigh and started to rub his temple, trying to regain himself. Just great. All I wanted in life is a normal life. Maybe my parents stopped moving around the world as much. Not being turned into a devil and someone's slave. Naruto angrily mumbled to himself, not believing how messed up his life has become. Naruto could hear the light shuffling of footsteps moving around him. A delicate finger brought his chin up and made him look up. Blue eyes stared into gray eyes. I want to know why it cost me my mutation rook piece to revive you, she asked him. Naruto stared into her eyes for a second longer before he gently moved her hand away from his face. While a part of him was still angry that he was stuck being a servant, or a slave in his mind, he was not sure what she meant by her question. You want to know why it cost you so much to turn me into a devil? Why it cost you so much to turn someone into your servant for life? What the hell makes you think that it cost you anything to turn someone into a devil? I didn't ask to become a monster. A freak of natural, Naruto yelled out her, his feelings were coming back to him full force. Here he was forever stuck into a forced deal with the devil. And she wanted to know why it cost her so much. She didn't lose anything for turning someone into a servant for herself. As he was losing himself to his rage, he failed to notice the other devil shake her head. Without uttering a word, she pointed her hand at him. With a loud smack, Naruto was forced on his backside, staring at the ceiling. A shadow loomed over him, as the silver-haired devil looked down on him. She was surprised by his actions. He kept getting angry every time him being turned a devil was brought up, and while it was normal for most to be angry at being turned into a devil and learn to accept it, he was not getting any closer to accepting it. Stop getting so angry, she coldly told him, her voice getting colder as she looked down on her servant. If I had known that you were going to act like a child and keep thinking about yourself in this whole ordeal, I would have left you dead. Is that what you wanted? You dead as your parents cry over the loss of the only son. That their tears, no matter how much are spilled, will bring their dead son back. Naruto's eyes widened at her statement. This entire time he only thought of himself. He never thought of how his parents would take the news that their kid had died. Thinking of them and how much they would have cried calmed him down. Okay. I will stop acting like a big baby now. Seekvaira smiled at him. Now she was getting somewhere with him. Can you get off me now? She looked at him, wondering why he wanted her to get off. Not till you answer my question. I will try to answer it, but I am just trying to let you know that I can see your panties from down here. A sharp kick was quickly followed after his little speech. Seekvaira's face had a bright red tint on her face, as the blonde sat up and rubbed his side. He was just being truthful. Not his fault that she didn't realize he could stare up her dress. I don't know why I cost you so much. I didn't even know that bringing people cost devils anything. Naruto told her, as he was not sure what she meant by her question. She brought her face closer to him and glanced him over. You have a great power inside of you that hasn't been released yet. I want to bring it out. She gestured him to sit down. I want you to take a deep breath and concentrate all of your thoughts on one single point in your body. Maybe we can bring it out, whatever makes you so special, she told him, as he gave her a quick nod of the head. Naruto closed his eyes and started to focus. After a few minutes of silence, with the only sounds being of the two breathing and the sound of a ticking clock as he tried to figure out what she wanted from him. But with no results and only the silence, Naruto was getting angry again. His eyes flew open and his mouth open, ready to lash out again. Before he could utter one word, a finger placed itself on his mouth. Both her hands cupped his face and made him stare into her eyes. Keep your concentration and I will try to help guide you into finding your gift, she calmly told him. He gave a light nod and closed his eyes and focused on her. He wanted to figure out what kind of gift she was talking about, but so far nothing was coming from him. Letting himself lose all thoughts, he started to fade away. Asterisk in his mind. Naruto. Wake up. A loud voice shouted as a piece of chalk hit him square on the head. The blonde head shot up with the impact as he took a quick glance around him. He noticed that all around him was blank faces. But the blank faces all belonged to kids. He looked up and saw a young tan adult glaring at him. A large scare formed across his face. "Urkua-sensei, did you have to throw that at me?" he whined as he rubbed his sore head. But the kids around him just laughed. Normally Naruto would have been angry that people were laughing at him, but for whatever reason he felt happy that he had their attention on him. "Since you seem so keen on sleeping on my lesson on Kraka, maybe you should tell the whole class what Charka is, and how to use it," he yelled at the young blonde. Naruto looked around the room hoping that someone might help him, but no one did. Taking a deep breath he readied himself. Charka is the combined energy of the physical body with the mental body. The way to use Charka is through training. With the training one can summon their Charka with different uses and mold it. "I think." Naruto mumbled the last part to himself, hoping that he had given the correct answer. The teacher stared at him for a bit. "At least you understand somewhat of today's lesson." Back to his room. "AP out it. Snap out of it," a voice repeated as Naruto's eyes opened. Seekvaira was still in front of him, but all around him he could see faint blue wisp of energy moved around his body. Looking at his hands he could see the energy was pouring from every inch of his body. But not seeing it being active shocked the blonde as he fell back down on his back with the energy coming to a stop. "Now I can see why you're special. You can use Charka." Seekvaira's voice laced with astonishment. She had found a true worthy piece to add to her peerage. Naruto stared into his hands wondering what just happened to him. That vision he saw seemed so real, but he knew for a fact he has never met a man by the name of Iruka. "I'm home." A voice rang out, stopping the two from any further actions. Naruto had a sense of dread wash through him, knowing that it was not a good idea for his mom to meet a girl at their house. "Get out of my house," Naruto whispered to her, but she was still in a daze with seeing him summon Charka. Picking her up and trying to shove her out the window was the first idea that entered his head. As he started to shove her towards the door, he didn't notice that they were making so much noise. "Ah, you're home early, Naruto. With a girl?" His mother's voice called out to behind. He slowly turned around and saw that his mother was staring at the lady that he was trying to kick out the window. The blonde let out a light chuckle, not sure how to handle what his mom just saw. Seekvaira could only wonder what was going on. "Night time. How did you let her allow you to stay the night? In my room?" Naruto questioned as he stared at the ceiling again. It seemed odd for the blonde to know he saw his ceiling more often than he normally did. But he had not choice as he was sleeping for the night on the floor with a silver-haired devil sleeping in his bed beside him. "Devil charm." She answered him, as her back was turned to face the wall away from Naruto. She didn't want to go home yet, and felt that she needed more time before she could leave Naruto alone. Thanks to his mother she was given some sleepwear for the night, but she was not sure on what to do at this point. "You're a weird girl." Naruto mumbled to himself as he turned his head to look at the devil laying on his bed. She didn't react at all and Naruto felt that she might have fallen asleep. As he tried to get himself comfortable to sleep, he didn't notice the figure shifting in his bed. "Thank you." A light voice drew Naruto's attention. He turned his head and saw that Seekvaira was looking at him. He raised an eyebrow, not sure about why she was thanking him. "You're the one who pushed me out of the way of the speeding car. Seeing you die cause you helped me made me want to revive you. Just so I can thank you," she quietly told him. A small blush formed on Naruto's face as he turned his head towards the other direction. "We're even," Naruto told her, but he got no answer. All he heard was light snoring. He smiled to himself as he drifted off to sleep. Maybe being a devil was not a bad thing after all, but for now he needed to see where this was going to take him. Seekvaira Agaras, the next heiress of the Agaras clan. One of the young devils that was going to take part of the young devils gathering. And current king of a certain new blonde rook, was in a state of bliss. The reason behind her current state was because of the bed that she was laying in. The bed felt too comfortable for her to just up and leave it. Now here she was, staring at the wall as she tried to get herself out of the bed. But feeling that she was not going to be moving anytime soon, she felt that it was no better time than ever to get her thoughts on order and figure out what to do now. First thing first, she now had a new rook that was capable of using Kraka. She was no stranger to what Kraka was, as it was the ability to use the mental and physical energy to perform feats that would normally be considered impossible. If one knew chakra, then there is a small chance that they could learn senjutsu. While chakra was the lesser of two evils, there was still a small fear that he could lose himself when trying to learn senjutsu. And as far as chakra goes, she was a novice when it came to Kraka. She understood what it was, but did not know how to train someone in its use. The only ones that could teach Naruto were gods, Buddhas and monks. That only left one option for someone to teach the blonde on Kraka, and that one option was currently in Rias Grammary Peerage. Now coming to her thoughts was her second priority, Rias Gramarye. Just thinking of her made Seekvaira blood boiled. There was a reason as to why Seekvaira did not like the red-headed devil, and that was because of privileges. Rias was given privileges that most devil could only wish for. From being given peerage members to denying requests from other noble families. It was not fair in her eyes that Rias could do anything she wanted just because her brother was the current Lucifer. But the silver-haired devil decided not to think any further of all the reasons why she didn't like Rias. No, she needed to remind herself that she might need help from one of Rias' peerage, and knowing that she might require the help of someone she hated made her just sick. But she was willing to do whatever she needed to help out her peerage, even if it meant swallowing her pride and asking for her help. Giving a small groaning, she turned around and forced herself out of the bed. She stretched her arms out and looked at the table stand beside the bed. Eyes widened, she saw that her glasses were gone. Panicking, she started to look around trying to find her glasses. Not on the stand, nor on the floor. She fell to the floor and began searching on her hands and knees hoping to find her glasses. And yet she still couldn't find her glasses. "Oh, you're awake." A surprised voice called out behind her. Turning her head to look behind her and squinting her eyes to try and get a better look at who was talking to her, all she could make out was a mop of blonde hair. But that was all that she could make out of him. "Are you looking for your glasses?" Naruto asked, seeing the state that she was in. It was funny seeing her on her hands and knees in such a disarray state. She nodded her head as she scrambled around trying to find it. "Here." Naruto offered her the item that was in his hand, as he stood in front of her. She looked up and saw that in his hand were her glasses. Quickly snatching them out of his hand, she put them on. Once her vision went back to normal, she took a quick glance at her new servant. She saw that there was a towel draped around his neck, and her clothes tucked to his side. "I smudged your glasses when I woke up, so I cleaned them," Naruto quickly explained. He saw her expression and knew that she wanted to know why her glasses were with him. "And my mom decided to wash your clothes," Naruto informed her. She nodded her head and stood on her feet. She grabbed her clothes out of his hands and started to walk towards the door. "Are you going to school today?" she asked him, not sure how she was going to break the next part of news on him. She knew that he was not going to like the next piece of information she was about to give him about being in her peerage. "Yeah." "Why?" Naruto asked, not sure as to why she would be asking him that. He was not sure if Seekvaira had to go to school, 'cause she was a devil. But even if he was turned into a devil, that didn't mean that he could keep skipping classes. "Well, I need you to act like you're going to school. After today you will no longer be attending your normal school." Naruto eyebrow roused and he wondered what she had was going to do now. While he didn't have any friends in the school yet, as he just moved into town not that long ago, he was still surprised that he was being withdrawn from the school. Without saying another word, he walked away. Seekvaira walked towards the shower before quickly closing the door behind her. The blonde quickly changed into his normal clothes, then walked towards the kitchen for his breakfast. Sitting down, he started to eat his pancakes, believing that he was going to need all the energy he could get. Looking around, noticing that his mother was not in the room nor his father, he ate in silence. Naruto knew his father was not going to be home for a few days due to his job, and his mother worked at an office job. Most of the time as he was at school, his mom would be at her job and be home shortly after school was over. After finishing his breakfast, he put his plates into the sink and grabbed his stuff, knowing that he still had to act if he was going to school. Without giving it a second thought, he walked out the door and waited on the front porch for Seekvaira to appear. With Seekvaira, she quickly finished her shower and just had finished changing. She sensed that Naruto was waiting outside for her. She could smell the scent of fresh food being cooked throughout the house. With her in the shower, Naruto, finishing up his breakfast to be ready for his first morning with the silver-haired devil. She did think it was weird that Naruto didn't stay in the house to wait for her, but did not give it much thought as she started to walk towards the door. "Oh, you're leaving?" a voice said behind the silver-haired beauty. She turned around and saw that it was Kushina behind her. She gave her a small smile and nodded her head. She turned around believing that the redhead was done talking with her. "Please grab something to eat before you leave," Kushina told her. Seekvaira turned around and thought about it. Even though she knew that Naruto was waiting for her, she also knew it was rude to decline an offer from the host. "I have enough time for a quick bite. Your son is waiting for me," she informed her politely, not wanting to be rude towards her Rook family. Kushina smiled at her, and walked towards the kitchen with Seekvaira following behind her. "Sit down and eat," she told her, as she took a seat waiting for Seekvaira to take hers. Seekvaira, not wanting to be rude and also slightly hungry, took a seat across from the redhead mother. Giving her a smile, she started to munch on the fresh toast. Kushina smiled seeing her enjoying the meal she prepared. Seekvaira, the lady, kept on eating and turned her attention to the woman in front of her. "You must be someone special if my son was willing to bring you home." Seekvaira stopped eating and waited for what else she was going to say to her. Naruto never really had any luck on making friends. Even the friends that he did make were only temporary, as our jobs were force us to leave towns and cities before he could really make any lasting bonds. Why are you telling me this? Seekvaira questioned her, not sure why she was getting this kind of information about her new peerage member. Even though she wanted to know some parts of his past, she felt she would learn that over time, not in one morning. You seem like a good person. If my son was willing to bring you to our home, then there must be something special about you. She gave her a warm smile. Seekvaira's face slightly gained a small blush of red from the praise. Normally she was used to being praised from her servants, but there was something different from this type of praise. I am sure that there's nothing special about me, Seekvaira replied, feeling that she wasn't deserving of her praise. No, in the back of her head she knew that she wasn't. How could she accept the praise when she knew that she turned her son into a devil? She had put his life in constant danger. And not only that, she had forced him to outlive the rest of his family. Meaning in no time she had to force Naruto to cut all ties with his family, otherwise over time it was only going to get worse when he had to leave them. However, she still felt that she had done the right thing. She had allowed the mother in front of her to still be able to chat and live peacefully. She will never knew that she had brought her son back to life. As long as she thought that Seekvaira was just some new friend in Naruto's life, and she was fine with that. She had made her choices and she was willing to live with the consequences she had made. You can say that all you want, but I will still keep saying it, you are special, Kushina told her, as she stood up. Seekvaira quickly finished her meal and put her plate in the sink before heading towards the door. Seekvaira. She had stopped and turned around, wondering what else the red-headed mother was going to tell her. Naruto might be a little hard to be around, but he is a good kid. Just please take care of him, she finished telling her with a smile on her face. Seekvaira nodded her head and walked out the door. She had to take a deep breath to regain her composure. Oh yes, she knew what she was about to do was not for anyone's benefit but her own. All that was left for her to do was talk to Naruto and tell him what his future will look like from this point on. She turned to see that the blonde was leaning on the wall of the house. So why can't I go to school today? Not that I'm complaining, Naruto muttered as he awaited for her answer. He watched her go through a series of expressions as she opened her mouth and closed it back up. That's when he knew that whatever she was going to say was not easy on her part, and it was not going to be easy for him either. As one of my peerage members, you are still unstable with the new changes in your body, and due to that fact I must take you to the underworld to get your better train with your new abilities. With that, I don't know how long it will take me to properly train you. Naruto was conflicted. She had just told him that he had to vanish from the face of the world and go to hell with her. That would mean he would leave his family. And with the way she was saying things, he might be in the underworld for who knows how long. He wasn't sure if he could live with that. And my parents? Naruto had to make sure that he wasn't leaving them for the rest of his life. Until we have you properly trained, you will have to stay in the underworld. She watched as his eyes shifted. She knew that she was telling him some hard news. And also, she knew that it was hard for anyone to leave their families. Yes, he knew that for a time that his life was not his own. The lady made it clear that his life was in her hands. But he thought that he was going to still be able to see his parents. Then again, he's still finding new things about the whole devil peerage ordeal. He still had to wonder what else he didn't know about being a devil. He was going to have to ask her more about it sooner than later. Can we work something out that I don't have to vanish from my family? We will have to leave tonight. But I will grant you a goodbye as I change their memories to make them believe that you're in a boarding school while you train in the underworld. Seekvaira knew that he needed to say his goodbyes, otherwise he would not be focused on his training. Naruto looked at the ground before nodding his head slowly. She lightly smiled, seeing that he was trying to accept the terms. But now she was going to use the afternoon to train him before the day was over. Now time to head for the park and focus on his training. 5 hours later, Seekvaira could only stare in amazement at the amount of progress Naruto was making. While she had no training towards chakra, she was fairly sure that the visible energy flowing from his body from time to time was a clear proof that he had a natural talent towards using chakra. Even though she sensed that his magic was on the low side, his natural talent was very high. Naruto, on the other hand, felt like he was remembering everything for the first time. Everything that Seekvaira had told him on how to draw his power felt like second nature to him. Seekvaira's advice on how to draw his power was helping him, but he felt that something else was helping him. Almost like a second voice in the back on his head was telling him how to draw on his power. I think that's enough, Naruto. He opened his eyes and saw that Seekvaira was standing in front of him. The blonde was not feeling any exhaustion from his training, but knew that she probably was getting bored watching him. Without saying another word, he stood up and stretched his muscles. You are doing great for your training, Seekvaira told him as he walked towards her. Naruto grinned. Oh yes, he felt like no one could beat him and that the world was his. So how am I doing so far as your first peerage member? Naruto asked. Seekvaira giggled at his question, making him raise his eyebrow. He was sure that he was the only member she had. Well, she hasn't said anything about there being others. What's so funny? You're not right about being my first member. Well, you are my first rook, but not the first of my peerage. That surprised the blonde. But he had to shrug it off. He was getting ahead of himself if he thought he was her only servant. So wait, how many others do you have? Naruto needed to know how many other people were under her command. The silver-haired beauty smiled at him, happy that he was asking more about the peerage system. I have 4 pawns, 1 knight, 2 bishops and last but not least 1 queen. That's not including you. She was happy to have found so many people to join her, and so close to having a full set. Being a young devil, getting a full set was one of the hardest things to do. As far as she knew, none of the other young devils had a full set yet. Next question. How come you were using chess pieces to tell me about them, and how come I haven't met them yet? For high-class devils to recruit others into their peerage, they use a small system to recruit them. For us, it's using chess pieces to bring them in. And to answer your second question, you haven't met them yet because it will take too much power for me to summon them all here to meet you. They're all busy training in the underworld waiting for my return. I can have a total of 15 members. She answered him quickly, seeing that he was about to ask her another question. He shut his mouth knowing that his last question was answered. Asterisk ding ding, the sound of a bell rang throughout the park. They both turned their heads and saw an ice creamer seller near them in the park. Seekvaira's eyes shined seeing the ice cream. She turned her attention towards her new rook and awaited for him to get the signal. Naruto looked at her and the ice cream seller, dumbly wondering what she wanted, before it clicked into his head that she wanted the sweet treat. He knew when it was stupid to fight a lady when she wanted to fight something, and walked towards the seller to get her the treat she wanted. While she waited on the bench for her servant to bring back her treat, she started to feel something coming towards her. She looked towards her side and saw a magic circle had formed with a document coming out of the circle. Knowing that it had to be important, she swiped it up and opened the document. She quickly read the document and her eyes widened as she kept read it. Naruto finally returned with 2 treats in hand, and was confused as to why she seemed nervous all of a sudden. He wasn't sure if he should speak or not, but decided he should. What's wrong? We have a mission. And we have to go now. Seekvaira firmly told him, as she quickly stood up and walked towards Naruto. The blonde was confused as to why she was serious all of a sudden. A mission? Does that mean I get to meet the rest of your peerage? Naruto asked as his hand was grabbed by hers. I don't have time to summon them all here. We need to hurry and hunt down the stray devil before he leaves. Naruto wondered what she meant as he was dragged by Seekvaira. She summoned a teleporting circle as she got ready to hunt the stray down. And she hoped that later she will have time to explain everything to Naruto. Naruto was left in amazement at the wonders that the devil known as Seekvaira was able to do. One moment he was in his lively neighborhood in the country of England, and now he was in a pitiful town in Africa. No, that wasn't his way to say he hated the continent of Africa, but where they teleport to look dead. From run-down buildings to people in rags. But there was some buildings that looked passable for living, and for some reason there was a hotel here too. The blonde could not see this town having many business from anywhere, but it must be getting money from somewhere. Naruto looked at the silver-haired heiress and was left to wonder what else she could do. Or even what else she hasn't revealed to him. And lastly, what powers and abilities he had that he hasn't discovered. Don't get the blonde wrong, he was still trying to adjust to the changes done to him, but everything was coming too fast for him. And without a proper time to adjust, he felt like he was getting a little overwhelmed. Who are we looking for? Naruto knew they were here to hunt down another devil for some reason, but that is as far as the information he was given. He was still coming to grips that he was going to have to hunt down another living human down. Former human. The blonde thought to himself. The man's name is Zabuza. He was a knight that belonged to one of the noble house of devils. Until he betrayed his king and attempted to kill his master. Seekvaira answered him, keeping her eyes on the road as they walked towards one of the buildings. That statement surprised Naruto. As far as he believed, he thought that all peerage members were unable to kill their master. His belief was that the system made them unable to harm their master, or at least they were weaker than them, but her statement just threw that out the window. Maybe he was weaker when he was first joined the peerage but grew stronger than his master over time, Naruto reasoned to himself. We will be staying in that hotel. Seekvaira told him, pointing towards the decent-looking building. Naruto nodded his head. But now he had to wonder what they were supposed to do now. He didn't know how this man looked like, let alone where he might be hiding right now. Maybe he should ask Seekvaira on what to do. You try and find some useful information on Zabuza. Seekvaira started to walk towards the hotel, before coming to a stop. I will do the same to ensure that we will and can find him, Naruto. When I find the right information we will begin the mission. She told the blonde, giving him the orders he needed to follow. The blonde devil wanted to ask her a few questions, but nothing would come out of his mouth. For whatever reason he couldn't form the words, and he wasn't sure if it had to do a real mission with lives on the line, or if he was trying to adjust to this lifestyle. Now he kept his mouth shut as the silver-haired woman walked away from his view. Once she was out of sight, the blonde let out a long sigh of breath and looked around. He knew that he stood out for many reasons. The big one was just his general appearance, where his clothes didn't even match the rest of the people. And from the looks of it, the people around him were talking about him, whispering and mumbling among each other as they tried to avoid his gaze. And Naruto knew he would have little to no success on finding information about the stray devil. Thinking about it now, the blonde was left to wonder why his king would send him on his own when he had no training on locating a stray. Seekvaira seemed to have been in a rush and didn't give him proper guidance on what to do. Not who to track down, not to watch out for, or even if he was supposed to do anything worthwhile. He knew nothing, and that was just sad for the blonde. With that knowledge, he took a glance around him to figure out what he could do. People walking away from him when they saw him looking around. There was nothing for him to do. Just as he was about to weep in his sorrow of being useless for the moment, something bright had caught his attention. Walking towards it, he was surprised to find a large pool of water. Looking around the river, he was surprised to see many boats in the water fishing. And judging by their looks, they were being successful on catching the fish. The sight of the sparkling water calmed down Naruto a bit. It set his mind at ease as he looked at the river. With all the quick changes going all around him, the calming sight of the river gave him the moment he truly needed to think about his new life as a devil. As far as the newly turned devil knew, he had yet to give up anything important. Yes, he knew that some of his freedom was taken from him, and now he had to serve Seekvaira for maybe the rest of his life. Yet, he was brought back to life because of that. But that did show that Seekvaira had a heart. He can't say for sure if she was good or a bad person. Only time would tell him. And speaking of time, how long could he hide it from his family that he was turned into a devil? More importantly, how was he going to be able to tell them he is a devil? Oh yes, all the possible ways he could tell him, but all still leaving him one common fear. The fear that his parents will reject him. Naruto knew his parents were very accepting to most things, but this was him being turned into entirely different species was a different matter. If he lost them, he didn't know what he was going to do. You shouldn't be standing that close to the water. Naruto jumped a bit with him, shocked that someone sneaked up on him. He knew that he was lost in his thoughts, but he at least thought he could hear someone creeping up behind him. Turning around, he saw a sight that quite frankly surprised him. In front of him was a true beauty in his eyes. The long silky brunette hair that reached all the way to her mid-back. Big brown doe eyes combined with her heavenly face. She was of average height but wore light brown platoon sandals to make her a little bit taller. Her fair skin looked great in the pink, sleeveless kimono, with pale red edges and decorated with small plum-colored swirls that went to her ankles. Around her waist was a simple white obi tied in a bow that was able to show her figure off. She also wore a dark-colored choker around her neck. And to finish off her look, she had nails and toenails painted blue-green. But after he was able to regain himself, the blonde knew something was off. The one reason he knew something was off was simply because there was a woman in a kimono in Africa. Why was someone wearing a kimono, let alone in a place like this, was off? Naruto, he felt no evil aura coming from her. But she was able to easily sneak up on him. He wondered what else she could have done. He decided to keep his guard up in case she tried anything. You shouldn't be standing that close to the water, she repeated to him, as she gave him a light smile. Sorry, but why shouldn't I? Naruto knew he was an outsider in this village, but he didn't believe that there was any dangers that close to him. Well, besides a stray devil. But there was no way that this cute little woman was the devil they were hunting. Could it? Just because the water seems calming, doesn't mean that there isn't hidden dangers laying under the water. She gave a light giggle, as the blonde looked at the water. As he looked at the water, he saw a pair of eyes watching him, waiting for him to get closer. Naruto gave a light chuckle as he couldn't believe how close he was to fighting a wild animal. Thanks, Haku. She gave him a warm smile as she extended her hand. Naruto didn't have to think twice as he shook her hand. I am Naruto Uzumaki. He returned her smile with a smile of his own. He was happy. Not only did he meet a new kind person, but she was not the devil that he was asked to hunt. Maybe coming here was not so bad. And yet, he still had one question to ask her. Why are you wearing a kimono? I am from not these parts. And I like to wearing kimonos. Her smile not once had left her face. Who knows, maybe she was used to being asked these questions. But Naruto couldn't help but notice that not once did her smile leave her face. Maybe she was just too kind to ever lose her smile. Why are you in a village like this? Yes, the blonde wanted to make sure why a beauty like her was in a rundown village like this. Why would anyone willing come to a place like if they weren't born here or had business? I am here because I came here with a friend of mine. She took a few steps back and sat down on the dirt. Giving a light pat next to her, the blonde walked next to her and sat down. For now, getting to know this beautiful woman was something he wanted to do. Plus, with no way to get information on Zabuza, a little story wasn't a bad way to pass time. Seekvaira should be able to find the information on the stray better than he could. Now, why would an outsider come to his village? She asked him, resting her head on her knees. Staring directly at him, she gave him a smile and waited for his responses. He had questions he wanted to ask her, and she had some she needed answers too. Naruto was at a loss of words. He couldn't actually tell her that he was a devil hunting another devil. That just sounded crazy. No, he needed to tell her something that might sound convincing enough as to why he would be there. But what? He had to say something now, anything. I'm here to just visit. The blonde hoped that he sounded convincing for her. He just blurted out the first thing that came to his mind. If he's lucky, she won't ask any more questions about why he was here. That's nice of you to visit a village like this for no reason, considering, Naruto tilted to the side. Maybe there was something going on this village that he didn't know about. He doubted that it had anything to do with Zabuza, or even devil matters. But information was information, and anything he could get could come in handy. That this village is a village forgotten from the world. Haku turned her gaze onto the river, watching the water flow. Naruto's expression quickly changed to one of confusion. How could a village be forgotten about by the world? Before he could open his mouth to question her further, she placed her fingers on his lips to silence him. You see, about 30 years ago this entire village was taken over and ruled by a tyrant. Many people tried to oppose him and were only met with death. This village even tried to bring outside help to stop him, but it was all for nothing. He could not be stopped. Over time, with no true way to stop him, the world turned their back on this village, and with that this village became forgotten to the world. Naruto took a quick glance around to see what she was talking about. Yes, he can see why no one would willingly come to a village like this with all the rundown buildings, and some questionable people. But besides that, he could see the people were happily chatting with each other without a worry in the world. What changed it? A true hero showed up a year ago and overthrown the tyrant. Haku stared deeply into the river. A flow of memories flashing through her eyes. A larger smile forming on her face. Naruto came to the thought that she was born in this village during that tyrant reign. He showed up and with his blade retook this village. All of the men under the tyrant tried to defeat him, but they were no match for his skills. Even though he was unable to kill that man, he was still able to reclaim this village and give the people back their hope. What was the hero's name? Naruto was intrigued about the hero of her story. It was nice to know that there was still kind people left in the world. His name is Zabuza. Naruto's eyes widened. He couldn't believe what he just heard. The devil he was hunting for was the actual hero of this village. But why would a devil take the time to save a dying village from a tyrant? Shouldn't a devil only do anything in return for themselves? He was happy that he was given some information on the devil they were hunting. Asterisk with Seekvaira asterisk. The location of Zabuza is unknown. A dazed man said as the silver-haired beauty eyes glowed. Seekvaira had just finished interrogate a citizen and he had good information on the stray. Her plan was to put every citizen she came across under her mind control and find any information she can on Zabuza. But it turned out to all be the same. They all praise him as a hero of the village. They praise him as a saint. And finally they did not have any information on where he was at. The only thing she could figure out was maybe increase her demonic power and hopefully drag him out. But even that had flaws in it. The main one would be that she was calling him out to her and leaving her up to an attack. What to do? Another person walked by Seekvaira. While she was about to give up on looking for the stray devil for the day, this one man stood out. Instead of the common clothes that she saw everyone was wearing, he was dressed fancier. And trusting in her instincts, she went to interrogate him. Quickly catching him up, she tapped his shoulder. Within a moment he turned around and faced the young lady. The moment their eyes locked was the moment she put him under her charm. Within seconds he was giving her the information she had needed. Giving herself a nod, she started to walk away from him. Ensuring that the man's memories of their account were all gone from his mind, she started to plan her next plan of actions. Maybe a sneak attack on him would work. Or she could call him out and demand a duel. He was only middle-class devil before he became a stray devil. In her mind that meant he was not a challenge. He shouldn't be that hard to beat. As she walked away, she took her charm off the man after she reached a good distance away from him. Since she now had the information she needed, she was going to have to recall Naruto. Good thing that she summoned her familiar to follow the blonde. She had to make sure that he was safe at all cost. As she walked away, she failed to notice what the charm man was doing. As the boss said, the man muttered to himself as he regained his conscience. He quickly pulled out a cell phone from his pocket and dialed a number. Hey boss, it's like you said would happen. Yeah, I had a blackout for the past few minutes. I am not sure what information I gave out, if I had given any out. Alright, I will come back to the base. Unknown location asterisk. Sorry about that, one of my associates was giving me an update about a business deal. A tall man surrounded by a group of guards told a lady as he sat down on a couch. The lady gave him a polite smile as she said nothing. The woman was dressed in a nun uniform and had long blonde hair hidden behind her black veil. Now sister, we need a servant of God to deal with the deal that has invaded our fair town. I will do what I can. The blessing of God will guide me on how to deal with the devil in your town, she kindly told him. The man smiled. Thank you sister. Is there anything I can do for your courageous battle? I don't require anything, only for you to donate to the church, she told him as she stood up. The man's smile grew as he led her out the door. He finally found someone to take care of his problem. If she couldn't do it, then there was many more of them out there. And he already had another plan going on as they spoke. May I ask you something? Why do you want to become strong? Haku asked the blonde. Naruto stared at the lady in front of him, wondering what she had meant. That was an odd question for the blonde. Not only was that brought out of the blue, but why would she ask him that? He had no reason to become strong. He didn't want to become strong simply because he was a devil. He didn't want to become strong because Seekvaira had told him to do so. But why did it seem like something in the deep part of his mind was telling him he had to become strong, almost a nagging feeling in the back of his mind? I don't think I have any reason to become strong, taking a deep breath to calm himself. Why do you ask? The blonde, while clueless, still needed to figure out why the woman asked him that one question. He could have told her his favorite food, his favorite color, and so much more with no problem. But why he wanted to become strong, he had no answer for her. I enjoy hearing people's reasons as to why they want to get strong. I enjoy hearing people's reasons from wanting to protect others, to simply being strong for the sake of being strong. Haku gave him a warm smile. And what do you think makes a person strong? I believe that someone can only become strong if they wish to protect someone. As long as they have that, then there are no limits on how strong a person can become. Naruto could only feel the sincerity from her words. The blonde could not deny that her reason was a valid reason. She had a good reason, but Naruto felt like she had meant more than what she was saying. As much as I enjoyed our talk, I do believe that it's getting late for the both of us. Haku stood up and dusted herself off. Naruto looked up and noticed that the sun was slowly going down. He was surprised that so much time had passed. Naruto, I do hope that we can meet again, Haku told him before she walked away. Naruto waved her goodbye as he watched her leave. In a matter of seconds she had vanished from his eyesight, leaving the blonde by himself. Looking around, he noticed that there were less people in the streets. Seeing that there was no longer a reason to be out, he decided to head back to the hotel. Taking a few steps, the new devil started to head to his destination before stopping. His thoughts all came rushing to him once again. He was a devil with no true purpose. He had no desire to become stronger than he was, but knew that if he told Seekvaira that she would become upset with him. He didn't care for money or power. Even as a devil he had no true desires, and from what he understood, a devil with no desires was close to useless, even pointless. He wanted to see his parents, but he was going to be forced into the underworld after this trip. His master hadn't really given him a reason as to why he had to go. Only that he had to for his training. That meant for him that he was still going to be able to see his parents, but not freely as he used to. Why was being a devil so complicated? Where was a guidebook on devils when he needed one? Naya. That one sound broke Naruto from his chain of thoughts. Looking down, he noticed that a black cat was rubbing itself on his leg. Reaching for the cat, he lifted it up and took a good look at it. It was just a normal black cat in his eyes. The only thing that stood out was the hazel eyes on the cat. Hey there, you cutie, Naruto greeted the black cat. The cat seemed to release a greeting of its own as it purred in his hands. The blonde smiled to himself. Well, this cat helped his mood just a little bit. Sorry, but I don't have any fish for you to eat. Naya. If he could understand cats, he could have sworn that the cat just whined to him. He couldn't blame the cat, he did just deny the cat its favorite food. Now he knew that he needed to get rid of the cat. Sorry, but I am going to have to let you go. Naruto gently put the cat back down and gave it a light patting. The cat enjoyed the warmth coming from the blonde as it relaxed into the petting. Giving it one last pet, he started to walk away from the cat. NYA. Looking down, he saw that the cat had followed him. Naruto tried to shoo the cat away from him, but the black cat just stayed with him. Naruto could have sworn that it gave him an annoyed look. He could tell that the cat was not going to walk away from him anytime soon. Letting out a sigh, he picked up the cat once again and brought it with him. He saw no true harm of bringing a black cat back with him for now. With Seekvaira *, the silver-haired devil was on her way back to the hotel, her thoughts going back and forth between confronting the stray devil and talking to her new servant. She knew that she had to come up with a plan to take him down, or at least capture him. But with her only having a newly reincarnated servant, she had limited strategies that she can use. She still needed more time to train her new peerage member, but since the mission was given, and all missions had to be completed as soon as possible, that left her little time to form a plan. Now she was forced to think of a strategy on the spot, and transporting the rest of her peerage to her location was out of the question since it would alert him to their presence. Yes, she knew that she could have done that before coming, but the issue was bringing her peerage would drain so much energy from her, and then transporting them to Africa would have left her with nothing, and she was not sure if she would be able to regain her strength in time. Still walking to her hotel, she stopped walking and took a deep breath, trying to calm herself down. Suddenly, everything around her seemed to freeze. The air became thick with bloodlust, every fiber of her being told her to run, but her legs would not move. She honestly felt that her heart might have stopped beating for a moment. She somehow was able to turn her head to look behind her, and what she saw terrified her. Behind her was a tall and noticeably muscular man with pale skin, short spiky black hair, brown eyes, and small eyebrows. He had bandages like a mask over the bottom half of his face. The man that made his presence known was shirtless, with his chest only covered by a belt to which he attached a very large blade. The blade reminded her of a butcher knife, only the size of a human. To finish off his appearance, he had baggy pants with a camouflage style and mimetic wrist warmers extending up to his elbows, with matching leg warmers with his combat boots. The one thing that stood out for her was his eyes. His eyes were cold, nothing but a frozen gaze on her form. His stare was cutting through her, almost as if he was looking at her very core. And even if her mind was telling her to run away, she couldn't bring herself to do so. The fear setting in her, making her body numb, she felt like that she was staring at death itself. Zab. Seekvaira was not able to find the words to form a sentence. She was more afraid that the devil was able to sneak up on her without her noticing him. If he wanted to, he could have killed her without her noticing. I heard you have been looking for me, little girl, his voice deep and gruff, fitting with his image. Seekvaira blinked and tried to find her voice. He leaned in closer, now towering over her smaller frame. She did the only action that she felt she could do. She nodded her head, not trusting in her voice. What family do you come from, little devil? Maybe she was able to bring up a little bit of courage inside herself, or because she was talking about her family, but she was finally able to find her tongue. I come from the Agaras family, rank Archduke. She was able to muster up some courage to tell him about her family status, but his presence was still leaving her on the edge. If her father saw her now, he would be greatly disappointed in her. He had her trained to never show fear, but now she was showing one stray devil fear. I don't care for your rank, little girl. He leaned in closer to her to stare her in the eyes. Why are you searching for me? It's because you're a stray devil. My family has given me orders to bring you back into the underworld and face your crimes. You still haven't answered my question, girl. Why are you here? That struck a chord in Seekvaira. She was here to hunt him down and bring him in or kill him. That was the orders she was given, and she had no choice but to follow them, but she had no true desire to hunt him down. Her father sent the orders, and here she was. I am here to bring you in. She tried to believe what she was saying, and yet again she still couldn't bring herself to actually believe in what she was saying. His gaze on her was not helping her resolve either. But here she was, following the orders her father gave her, to search and destroy a stray devil that has a record of killing anyone that came searching for him. Asking herself at this moment, the only answer she could bring herself was that she wanted to impress her father, gain his approval and make him happy with her accomplishment. You're still not giving me a good answer, little girl, but if you wish to bring me in, then you have to defeat me. Tomorrow evening you and I will have a duel. If you defeat me, I will let you take me in. But if I win... Zabuza stepped back, leaving the threat in the air. The silver-haired devil was surprised that she was not attacked by him yet. Without saying another word, he vanished from her sights. The moment he was gone, Seekvaira was finally able to regain a normal form of breathing. Collapsing to her knees, a small trail of cold sweat went down her face. She was supposed to fight him. How was she going to face him, let alone defeat him? Within that moment she realized that she was way over her head. She needed to train more. She needed to get Naruto stronger. She hoped that some miracle will happen in the fight to save them. With Naruto. Hey, you're back. Naruto greeted the heiress as she walked into their room. He was currently munching on some fried fish, while the black cat was eating a fish off a small plate. Even though he was not a big fan of fish, food was food. While he would rather have ramen than fish, he took what he could get. The one thing that Naruto noticed when Seekvaira walked in was that she seemed to be in a hurry. She looked frightened and a little on the edge. That surprised the blonde, since he thought that she was always able to keep herself composed, but whatever happened while she was out had a clear effect on her. Here, Naruto handed her a plate of fried fish. The food was delivered maybe 5 minutes ago, so it should still be warm enough. She took the plate from him and quickly dug in. She needed to eat fast to get his training underway. What is with the cat? She asked him as she tried to make quick conversation with him. She didn't care for the cat, but eating in silence was not something she enjoyed. The cat in question looked at her for a second before going back to its fish. I found the cat in the streets, and the cat didn't want to leave me alone, so I thought, why not, I'll just take care of it for now. Seekvaira nodded her head. I am still trying to think of a name for the cat. I know. Neko. Nya. The black cat shook its head, telling him that it didn't agree with the name. Damn. With a snap of his fingers he dismissed the name. Quickly finishing the rest of her fish, Seekvaira put the plate aside and faced the blonde. She knew she had no real time to waste and needed to tell him what they had to do. I met Zabuza. That caused Naruto to stop eating and face his king. The blonde had mixed feelings about the stray devil, and now he knew that they were going to have to finish their hunt for him. But from the stories he was told the devil was a good man. We have a duel with him tomorrow evening. Naruto slowly nodded his head. He had a feeling that he was not going to like where this was going. But there was nothing about being a devil he liked so far. He had to hunt people, he had to become stronger for someone else, and he had no true free will of his own. Now what did she have to say to him to make him hate being a devil even further? I am going to have to get you some training before we face him. After you're done eating we will start your training, she informed him. Now she waited for his response. Do we really have to hunt him down? Naruto asked her, hoping that there was some way that they could just walk away from this stray devil. Maybe just leave and say they faced him, who would know? It's our duty to bring the stray in. Seekvaira firmly told him, repeating the same words she was told since she was young. While she wanted to leave the area and have someone else take on the stray devil, she knew that it would bring some shame to her family, and like everything else she was raised to never bring shame to them no matter what. I kind of get that, but I heard stories about Zabuza. To the people in this village he is their hero. He saved them from an evil tyrant. He can't be that evil. Naruto wanted to avoid the conflict. He also didn't want to risk his life for a pointless battle. He still killed his master. No matter what good he has done, his past actions cannot be forgiven. A little trace of anger was starting to lace in her words. So that's it. Once you become a stray you're forever hunted down till that person is killed. You're condemned for the rest of your life to look over your shoulder till you die. You don't even get a trial. He was starting to get angry. He couldn't believe how devils were just so easy to kill one another. He killed his master. Since he became a stray devil he has killed countless other devils that have hunted him down. Seekvaira was doing everything she can to try and not lose her temper towards the blonde. She knew that he had a lot to learn about devil society, but she didn't have time to deal with a kind heart. She needed him to follow his orders without question. Naruto, did you know that he is not even among the top 5 stray devils in the underworld? She wanted to show him a little bit of the devil's history. Yeah, I bet those 5 did something worse than killing their master. They probably killed a god or something. Naruto sarcastically told her, not knowing that some devils have tried to kill gods before. I will tell you the tale of the story of the double SS rank stray devil known as the Black Cat Kuroka. At that moment the black cat walked to the blonde and curled up next to his feet. Naruto gave it a little petting before turning his attention back to the young lady. Long ago a young lady by the name of Kuroka, who was born into a rare species known as Nekosho, was turned into a devil, but in order for her to be reincarnated her master had to use his 2 bishop pieces due to her talent in magical skills. While serving her master, she became extremely talented in senjutsu and yujutsu, and her magical power as a bishop became so great that she surpassed her own master in terms of magical power alone. But since she started to use senjutsu she started to become consumed with the malice that senjutsu brings on the user. This later became her undoing when she became a stray devil after she killed her master. Her actions caused her entire race to be hunted down and killed. Following the incident, she became one of the underworld's most wanted criminals, ranking at sulfur monosulfide class. After she finished her story, the black cat resting by Naruto's feet let out a hiss for a second before being calmed down by the petting from the blonde. That seemed odd to the 2 devils, but they quickly dismissed it. Are you sure there was no reason behind her killing her master? The blonde was surprised that one person could cause so much death, and that was because one person killed their master. He wondered if there was any way to stop a person with that kind of strength. She became too strong. That's the end of the story. The blonde finally realized something. Aren't you trying to make me learn senjutsu? Yes, she gave him a quick nod of the head. Does that mean that I can go crazy and try to kill you too? The blonde did not like that someone wanted him to learn something so dangerous. Yes. The blonde eyes widened. If he learned senjutsu then there was a chance for him to go insane with power and kill her. Then he would be hunted down like Zabuza until he was killed. But I will try to stop you before that. I will do everything I can to ensure that I can save you before you lose yourself in senjutsu. Seekvaira placed a hand on his shoulder. I don't have plans to die anytime soon, and I hope neither do you. Let's get this training underway. Naruto clenched his fist. Seekvaira saw the burning fire in his eyes and knew that the blonde was determined to train. She smiled knowing that at least the blonde was starting to slowly understand that there was more to devils than meets the eye. Naruto on the other hand had remained entirely focused. The blonde knew that he was given some training last night and was nowhere near to being unbeatable, but at least he had a skill to finally use in a fight. 2 against 1, they should be able to win without the fight getting messy or dragging out. The blonde devil felt that the plan to defeating Zabuza was an easy one. He would distract Zabuza while Seekvaira had time to prepare a spell to capture him. Easy enough. But this was life, and the truth of the matter was that all plans were subject to change on a moment's notice. Letting out a deep breath, Seekvaira used her senses to try and located the stray devil in the fog. As she searched for his aura, she felt that something was amiss. It felt as though the presence of the devil was all around her. That his very being was lace in the fog. And that frightened the silver-haired devil. If she couldn't find him by sensing for his aura, then they were left open for a sneak attack. And in an instant the fog cleared a path in front of them. The two didn't move as they awaited for the fog to stop. Within moments the fog revealed the very devil they were looking for. But he was not alone. Another short figure was standing next to the stray devil. But Seekvaira was not only surprised but slightly afraid. She couldn't sense his power, and that frightened her. That one figure was unknown, and he could be the deciding factor on how this fight outcome will turn out. The figure outfit consisted of a pinstriped outfit which stopped at their knees. The top is a green haori with white trimmings, and around the waist a brown sash with a fringed trail wrapped around the waist twice. A pair of light brown platoon sandals with straps in the same color as the kimono and nail polish on the person's fingernails and toenails in matching blue-green color. The figure long hair was gathered in a white bun holder, while 2 locks of the hair fell loose framing the figure face, bound with metal hair cuffs at the ends. A mask covered the figure face. The mask was a white with thin, curved eye holes and a red wavy design in place of the mouth. Zabuza wearing bandages like a mask over the bottom half of his face, those bandages loosely tied around his neck like a scarf. He wore a sleeveless black shirt and matching pants, complete with a waistguard, and yet again, striped wrist and leg warmers. And finally on his back was a giant sword strapped to his back. The sword was massive broadsword shaped like a giant butcher knife's, and for Naruto it installed fear into his body. But Seekvaira knew that the sword wasn't there for looks. This was a devil that was once a knight, and she knew that he had the power and the speed to carry that broadsword as if it was a normal simple sword. In the back of both of their minds they both knew that they should run, but their body refused to move. Yet, Seekvaira knew it was time for her to gather her courage and face this stray devil with everything she got. But the alarms in Seekvaira's mind were going off. Just the fact that now there was another person with Zabuza meant that one of her plans was in trouble. Her eyes flickered to Naruto for a brief second. One of her plans involved placing a magic crest on the blonde chest. She didn't have much time to properly train Naruto. Because of that she was forced to give him enhancements to toughen his body for the fight. The enhancement was a magic spell known as reinforcement magic. Reinforcement magic is a difficult magical skill. It's with the purpose of pushing a basis to the utmost. It is the foundation of all mage craft that enhance the existence of the target by pouring magical energy, but has no clear expression of how much it can be enhanced as defined. Almighty reinforcements are rare. It is the same as adding something to an object that is already complete. In case of failure the target will receive it as a poison. Success requires a good grasp of the inner structure to fill openings with magical energy. Reinforcing the purpose of existence would be increasing the sharpness of a knife, the nourishment of food, or in the case of a living creature, physical strength and durability. It is impossible to reinforce something vague. As living things will resist invasion of magical energy, reinforcing someone else is the hardest. Seekvaira had a very hard task in front of her. She had 2 tasks that was required of her at once. 1, she was going to be supplying Naruto with the magic for his body, and 2, she was going to be facing Zabuza at the same time. It meant that her magic was going to be quickly draining itself to help supply Naruto throughout the fight. While she was confident in her skills and in her magic reserves, she just knew that she couldn't have a prolonged battle. But now with another person in the battle meant her plan was quickly vanishing. Now she had to worry about another enemy. Naruto not overusing the reinforcement magic or it could destroy his body from the inside out, and lastly capturing the stray devil. Yes, she had faith in Naruto, even if she was going to put his body at risk, but she felt that he could handle it. As a devil she knew that there was no rewards without risk, and here she was putting a large risk on Naruto. She warned him about the danger of the magic, but he was adamant about allowing his body to be put through the risk. But gave him the warning if he felt his body felt like it was ready to break down to disconnect the link from the magic seal. You have arrived, young devil. Zabuza's gruff voice rang throughout the mist. Seekvaira stood firmly on her feet, and tried to stand as brave as she could. She didn't want to show fear in the face of the stray devil. Last chance. You can run now or die where you stand, was the final warning she received. But like before, she stood silent and prepared her magic. Zabuza took the silence as her final answer. Without saying another word, the two enemies attacked the devils. Seekvaira had to quickly dodge a swing of the blade as it came very close from taking her head off her shoulders. She was able to dodge the blow and created 3 small magical runes to fire small energy blast towards him. Zabuza used his blade to block the attack. Giving her a heavy glare, he charged towards her once again. With Naruto, he had to quickly dodge the low sweep kick aimed for him. Doing a quick jump to dodge the blow, he aimed his fist for the face of his unknown attacker. Throwing a punch, his fist came close to his attacker, but as his fist almost connected, his arm was grabbed. Within seconds he was slammed onto his back. His attacker then tried to smash Naruto's head in with an axe kick. The blonde was able to dodge the blow for his head, but was unable to free his arm from his attacker. Reinforcement magic will help strengthen your natural strength. Seekvaira advice rang throughout his mind, as he sprung his capture armed and grabbed his captivate and flung the person to his side, slamming the person onto their back. The force impact cracked the floor, and a small gasp of pain came out of the person, but just as quickly as the attack had happened, the person sprung back onto their feet and jumped a few meters from the blonde devil. Yuki. The soft voice from the devil attack said. Naruto figured that the person in front of him was a male. Naruto looked at the person standing in front of him, wondering what he meant when they said the word Yuki. My name is Yuki. The person identified themselves as. And my name is Naruto. If the person was going to introduce themselves to the blonde, then Naruto was going to do the same. It felt like it was the right thing for him to say. But this life and death battle was still new to the blonde. It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto. The devil couldn't figure out what Yuki was thinking of. And that was mainly because of the mask being worn by his attacker. I am not a physical fighter, Naruto. No, my specialty lies in magic. Naruto raised his eyebrow, wondering why this magic user was telling him about their specialty. Yuki stood still, but was quickly making hands movements. Naruto wondered why this mage hands were almost invisible and what kind of trick this person had up their sleeves. The mist seemed to get colder and colder. Naruto kept watching the hand movements, but something caught his eye. In front of him, a very pale seal was in front of him. I am sorry that I have to kill you, Yuki said, as one of his hands stopped moving. After saying that, the pale seal sprung to life, as an icicle shard flew out of the seal straight at the blonde. Blue eyes widen as the shard rocket towards his head. Naruto quickly dropped to the ground to avoid the blow, but heard the shard smash into the ground behind him. I hope you don't believe that was it. Yuki's voice rang throughout the mist. Naruto looked up and saw multiple seals in front of him. Without missing a beat, Naruto rolled out of his location as a shower of icicle shards rained down on previous location. Quickly jumping back to his feet, Naruto took a quick glance around his surroundings and noticed that all around his the pale shining of the magical seals were all around him. And in the next instance every seal fired shards at the blonde. His eyes widened, as time seemed to freeze for the blonde-haired devil. Acting on pure instinct, Naruto quickly rolled out of the way as the ice dug into the floor. Taking a deep breath, the blonde devil got back to his feet and rushed towards the ice user. Within seconds Naruto was in front of the ice user. His fist cocked back, he threw a strong right uppercut that connected to the jaw of the ice user. The moment his fist connected with his opponent's jaw, Yuki scattered into pieces, stunning the blonde. Unknown to the blonde, an ice mirror appeared behind him. As Naruto was trying to figure out what had happened to his opponent, he didn't notice someone sneaking up behind him. He was sprung around and saw that Yuki was behind him, ice needles in hand. In the next instance Yuki slashed at his face, drawing blood from the young devil. Naruto took several steps back, holding his cheek. While the cut was swallow and only grazed his cheek, he was more surprised that Yuki went for a killing blow. This is a life and death battle. I hope you realize that, Yuki calmly told Naruto. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Even though he knew that this was a battle, it had yet to dawn onto him that his very own life was on the line. He was holding back, just trying to knock out Yuki, but Yuki on the other hand was not. This person was looking for the killing blow so that he can rush to the side of Zabuza. Do we have to fight? Naruto asked, trying to calm his rapidly beating heart. Yuki didn't budge. Instead he raised his hand to his face and got into battle stance. We are nothing more than tools for our masters, Yuki simply stated. His tone remained calm. It's our duty to serve our masters. To protect them, to fight for them, and to ultimately die for them. That is why we serve our masters. Naruto couldn't believe what he was hearing. It almost seemed like Yuki gave up on life and was willing to die for Zabuza. What happened to you? Naruto wanted to figure out why someone was willing to throw away their life. He always grew up believing that all life was precious, but to hear those words come out of someone's mouth just shocked him. That is another story for another time. Yuki took a step back and stepped inside an ice mirror, vanishing from the blonde devil vision. Naruto looked around wondering where he had went to. But he realized that this was just like before. Spinning around, Naruto saw that a mirror was forming right behind him. Without giving it a second thought, he smashed his fist through the mirror. But no one came out of the broken mirror, which put the blonde on higher alert. As the broken mirror shards fell to the ground, Naruto turned his back and tried to find the ice user. But unknown to the blonde, Yuki was emerging from the broken shards. Seeing the perfect chance to defeat the blonde devil, Yuki took aim and strike. As his needle came closer and closer to the blonde neck, the devil spun around and backhand Yuki to the ground. Yuki didn't have time to react as the backhand connected with his face and sending him straight to the ground. The impact had caused a small crack to form on the mask. Both were surprised about the attack. Yuki was surprised that he was caught in the middle of an attack when he was sure that his sneak attack would have gone without a hitch. But Naruto was more surprised. He felt a spark behind him. As if he felt that someone was behind him, and taking a chance the blonde strike. Something in his mind was telling him on how to keep track of the ice user. But now, Yuki was going to get serious. If sneak attacks were going to fail, then he felt it was better to overpower him with pure force. Getting back to his feet, he summoned multiple seals that quickly swarm around the blonde. Naruto wasn't sure on what Yuki was attempting. In the next moment, Yuki unleashed his attack. Multiple ice shards fired right at the blonde devil, and within seconds every piece of ice shards pierced into his body, shocking the blonde on the attack. Blood slowly leaked from the blonde devil. Yuki walked up to the blonde and punched him in the jaw. With that one strike, the blonde fell to the ground in a pool of his own blood. "I am sorry. I hope you can forgive me in the afterlife." Yuki started to walk away from the blonde, feeling that his life was going to come to an end in a matter of moments. As he was leaving the blonde, his leg was suddenly grabbed. Looking down, he saw that Naruto was grabbing his leg. "You shouldn't waste the last of your strength." Yuki tried to pull his leg out of the grasp of the devil, but his grip wouldn't loosen. Using a little bit more of force, he was able to get his leg free, but at that moment a fist slammed into his jaw, further cracking his mask as his body flew into the sky before slamming down to the ground. A loud thump was heard as Yuki touched the ground. Yuki looked up and was amazed by the sight. In front of him he saw Naruto getting back up, but not only that, he saw steam coming from the blonde body. He was more amazed when he witnessed the ice shards slowly being pushed out of his body. Weakly getting back to his feet, a chunk of his mask fell off, revealing pale skin under the piece that fell off and blood falling from his mouth. Knowing it was better to regroup, he quickly summoned another ice mirror to escape from the blonde. Trying to escape from the blonde, he took a step back, but as half his body entered the mirror, his free hand was grabbed. Yuki's head snapped back and saw that Naruto had grabbed his arm, and like lightning, Naruto's fist slammed once again into the face of Yuki, smashing him through his mirror. The force of the impact caused Yuki to bounce on the ground. Slowly getting back to his feet, he tried to make a defense, but nothing he tried helped him. Naruto came at him with ruthless aggression, not once letting him regain his footing. Punch after punch just kept connected with Yuki. Every time he thought, Naruto, assault was going to come to an end, the blonde devil kept going. Every punch was slowly destroying his mask. Blood was splattered everywhere as Naruto's fist slammed into his stomach. Following up, Naruto threw another uppercut to the left side of Yuki's face. Falling back to the ground, his mask finally gave out and fell off his face. As he turned his head, Yuki witnessed another fist about to make contact with his face once again. But the blow never came. Slowly opening his eyes, he saw that the fist was inches away from his face, trembling. Looking up, he saw tears coming from the blonde. "Why?" Naruto whispered, "Why did it have to be you, Haku?" The only thing that Haku did was give him a small sad smile. He knew that nothing he was going to tell him would make sense to him. Seekvaira was not faring well against Zabuza. Even since the battle had began, she was not able to gain an upper hand. Every strike, every magic attack, and anything she attempted on the stray devil all seemed useless. All of her attacks were met with counters. If she lost her focus for even 1 second, she would have died. His attacks were so precise, so powerful, so deadly, and she knew that she couldn't hesitate for any reason. The only silver lining was that fact that she didn't feel drained for supplying Naruto for his battle against the other opponent. No, it almost felt like Naruto had yet to take any magic from her. Maybe his body was supplying itself, or maybe her magic reserves were able to handle the stress. Either way, she was happy that she was not feeling drained throughout this fight. But she knew that she was going to need his help as soon as possible. She needed him to hold off Zabuza while she set up a powerful spell to defeat the stray devil. Her only offense for the moment were quick spells that had no true power behind them. They only severed to hold off the stray devil, nothing more. She just hoped that his battle was going to come to an end soon. Why did it have to be you, Haku? Naruto nearly shouted, as he couldn't believe that the very person he just met yesterday was the same person that was trying to kill him today. He was so kind, so sweet, he was the very opposite of a killer. But here he was, trying to kill the blonde. It's because we are simply tools for our masters. Haku didn't even hesitate in his answer. It felt to the blonde that he already accepted his fate. No, we're not. We are living beings that don't simply just die because someone tells us to. Naruto shouted at him. He couldn't understand why someone wouldn't fight to just live. Haku sounded like a defeated soldier that only knew how to battle, instead of an actual living human being. Haku let out a soft chuckle, not surprised on how Naruto was handling their current situation. But then again, this must have been the first time this has happened for the blonde devil. I guess for a new devil like you, my way of thinking is odd, but it's the honest truth. We are tools for our masters. Nothing we can say nor do will ever change that one fact. Our lives are in their hands. And with that means it's our duty to ensure that they live at all cost, even at the cost of our own. Haku took a moment to wipe the blood from his mouth away, knowing this information was bone-crushing for him. Your life is your own. You don't have to throw it away. Naruto was close to tears, but he was able to hold them back. I wish that was always true, but Zabuza is the reason why I am still alive today. My life belongs to him. Haku could see the shock in the blue eyes of the blonde devil. Haku took a deep breath and opened his mouth. I am a female, Naruto, and this all began when I was a child. Haku, age 11 years ago. I was born in a small village, into a farming family. Then everything changed when they showed up. All around fire burned, as people ran around screaming trying to run for safety, but nothing they did was able to keep them safe. Every corner they ran into they were cut down faster than the blink of an eye. Yet, somehow Haku and his family were still alive and still attempting to escape the hell. I don't understand why our king wants us to destroy this village, a deep gruff voice said through the flames. He drained this place of all its recourse, so he said it was no use to him. A voice replied back. Since this all came from Haku memories, she couldn't recall how they looked. Only the sounds that he heard while he was running. As Haku and his family kept running, Zabuza landed in front of him. Within seconds the couple head were chopped off, leaving Haku all by herself. She fell to the ground, peeing herself as she did, praying to whatever God would answer her prayers that she would live through this. I really hate killing kids. Zabuza commented on, as he grabbed his sword for the swing to end Haku's life. Just as the blade came crashing down, Haku felt something coming to the surface. Almost as something was coming to protect her. Instead of feeling the blade hit her, all she heard was the blade hit something else. Opening her eyes, she witnessed that Zabuza's blade had smashed against an ice barrier had formed around her. A magic user, Zabuza said to himself, as he pulled his blade out of the ice barrier, just as he was going to strike once again. A hand placed itself on his shoulder. Turning to the owner of the hand, he saw that it was his king. If someone was able to block your blade, then they will make a fine addition to my peerage. His king commented on, feeling that he just found the last useful recourse from this village. He summoned his pieces to attempted to place Haku into his peerage. But nothing happened. Every piece he attempted to use had no effect on Haku. She was able to reject every piece that he tried on her. With every failed attempt he only grew angrier and angrier. And once again she rejected his last piece. Kill this child. The king screamed in frustration, as he didn't like the fact that a powerful mage user was slipping through his fingers. If he couldn't have her, then no one was. But nothing happened. Turning around, he marched to Zabuza wondering why he hasn't done anything yet. Didn't you hear me? I said kill this child. As soon as he grabbed Zabuza by the neck of his shirt, Zabuza pulled his blade out and chopped his king head off. Zabuza won. What do you? Without a warning, Zabuza killed his fellow peerage member with one powerful swing. You are a weak king, Zabuza said, as he started to walk away, not caring for his actions, or now that he was going to be hunted down by other devils. In fact, he was looking forward for all his upcoming battles. Just as he took one step forward, he felt something grabbed his leg. Looking down, he saw that Haku had grabbed his leg. Please take me with you, Haku screamed at the top of her lungs, tears rolling down her cheek. She didn't care that he just killed her parents. She didn't care that he almost killed her. All that she cared about was that she was saved by him when she thought she was going to die. That was the only important factor for her that truly mattered. You do. If you follow me, your life will be filled with nothing but danger? I don't care. Just take me with you. Zabuza's eyes softened. This young girl was brave if she didn't care if her life was going to be in constant danger, or she was just foolish. But it was her choice. He crouched down and picked up the small girl. Naruto was shocked. He couldn't believe what he was just told. Haku, the very person he just met, had asked him to kill him. Believing that her life had no more worth after being beaten by the blonde, she lost the will to live. No, that wasn't right. Just because you lost a fight doesn't mean you should just allow yourself to die. All life was precious. No one should ever just give up on their own life. Maybe there was some way he could save her. A way that didn't involve Haku losing her life due to her own feelings of self-worthlessness. The blonde was not some killer that could just kill another human for no reason. Come on, brain, think. It's okay for you to end my life. Naruto was snapped out of his thoughts by the voice of Haku. Even when talking about dying, she just kept a calm expression. It was scary for the blonde to know that she welcomed her death. No, welcoming wasn't the right word, it was more on the line of accepting her death. You don't have to die. Naruto felt as if he was repeating himself, but he still held on to the belief that if he kept saying it enough times that it would work. But just like before, it fell on deaf ears. Walking up to the blonde, she kept the smile on her face. When she finally reached the blonde, she fell down onto her knees. As Naruto went to her side to help her back onto her feet, she stopped the blonde from doing so. Please don't make me beg anymore, Naruto. Placing her hands in her lap, she looked at the blonde in the eyes and gave him the saddest smile he had ever seen in his life. Now, finish the fight. Finally understanding that Haku would not listen to his words, with a heavy heart he started his long walk to her. With tears in his eyes, Naruto walked to the ice user and crocked his fist back. As he reached Haku, he lined his fist with her head and brought his fist down. With Zabuza and Seekvaira, Seekvaira was still forced to dodge every strike that Zabuza had sent her way. She felt the wind pass her face as the blade missed her head, felt the sting of the wind as the power behind every strike aimed for her. Just as she took another step back to avoid another blow, her foot slipped, causing her to lose her balance and fall on her back. Zabuza smirked to himself, happy to see that an opening was created, knowing that there was no way she would be able to save herself this time. Bringing his sword down for the final blow, Seekvaira closed her eyes and waited for the end, but it never came. Slowly opening her eyes, she witnessed the blade a mere inch away from her head, but Zabuza's attention was focused on something else. Looking at his direction, she saw that it was in the direction of Naruto and his opponent. Haku. Zabuza whispered, no longer able to sense the presence of his companion. Forgetting all about the heiress below his blade, he rushed towards their direction, fearing that his longtime companion was no longer alive. Running to the last known location that he sensed Haku's signature. Within moments he reached the destination, and came to the sight of Naruto standing over the beaten body Haku. On the ground, Haku was laying on her side. From the side of her forehead blood was coming out her head, and standing over her prone body was the blonde devil. What did you do to Haku? Zabuza was using all his self-restraint from blindly rushing the blonde. Maybe he was just seeing things. There was no way that Haku was beaten, especially by this low-level devil. She is dead. Naruto had a hard time saying the words, let alone letting them come out of his mouth. But that is what happened, he killed her. And while Naruto had a hard time saying those words, Zabuza on the other hand lost it. Within seconds, Zabuza swung his blade aiming for the blonde head. For Naruto, his instinct went crazy. Just as the blade was about to make contact with his neck, Naruto ducked under the sword. The blonde let out a loud gasp of air, amazed that he was able to dodge the blade, but knew that he needed to be on guard. Jumping away from the stray devil, Naruto quickly got into a battle stance. For Zabuza, all he saw was red. The very young lady that he raised was no longer in the world of the living. While he always told Haku that she was simply a tool for him to use, he never believed that she would die in battle. I will personally ensure that you're dead by the end of the day. Zabuza growled out, as he ready for his next swing. Charging at the blonde, he brought his sword up and brought it down in full force. Naruto was able to dodge the blow, but Zabuza used the small opening and used the momentum to swing himself on the blade and kick Naruto in the stomach. Stumbling backwards, Naruto held his stomach, amazed at the counterattack by the stray devil. Zabuza smirked to himself, as he saw the opening he created. Now he was going to kill the blonde devil. Charging at the blonde once again, he aimed for the blonde head. Clunk. Zabuza's sword was blocked by a large shield of ice, saving Naruto, and causing the stray to lose his balance. As Zabuza looked around wondering on what had saved the blonde, he witnessed the sight of several magical runes formed all around him. Turning his head, he saw that Seekvaira's hands were glowing with energy. Die! Seekvaira growled out, as every magical runes exploded around the devil swordsman, encasing the devil in a mini explosion. The sliver-haired beauty let out a sigh of relief, believing that Zabuza's life had finally came to an end, believing that there was no way that anyone could survive the attack. Taking a moment to catch her breath, she started to walk towards her rook. Hee hee hee. The sound of laughter was heard by the two devils, causing a cold sweat to sweep through the two. Both quickly turned their heads to the fire and smoke from where Zabuza was standing. Emerging from the fire, Zabuza stood tall, covered in burn marks, with a patch of fire burning his arm. A small amount of blood was coming from his mouth, and the most crazed grin was on his face. Picking up his cleaver, he slowly started to march towards the two devils. How did he? Naruto was amazed at the sheer durability of Zabuza. While he knew that a devil's body was stronger than an average human, to see that it could withstand a small explosion was just amazing. Seekvaira's blue eyes widened in fear. She firmly believed that her attack would have ended the battle, but to see Zabuza still alive frightened her. Not only that, her attack drained her magic reserves to a very low amount. She wouldn't be able to repeat her attack again, well, not without a small rest. Yet she knew that asking Naruto to stall Zabuza might be suicidal. She had to think. There had to be some way to win this fight. You're going to die first, Blondie, Zabuza angrily declared, as he rushed towards Naruto. Seekvaira didn't have the energy to be able to protect Naruto from the attack, and for Naruto, his body just couldn't move. He wasn't sure if it was because of Zabuza emerging from the explosion, or maybe because this was the first time he had ever faced the reality that he might die today. Zabuza, rushing towards the blonde, brought up his cleaver and aimed for the head of Naruto. He grinned to himself as he knew that there was no way that Naruto was going to be able to save himself this time. As the blade came crashing down to split the blonde in half, a magical seal appeared behind the blonde, and with that a pair of arms grabbed Naruto and pulled him away from the incoming attack. Who? Zabuza growled out, surprised that someone had saved the blonde. For the stray devil, he no longer cared for his life. All he cared for was ending the blonde before he died. If he was able to kill Naruto before dying himself, that he would be happy that he was able to avenge Haku's death. Nya, that was good timing. A voice chimed in. The two devils that didn't know what had happened to Naruto turned to the sound of the voice. While Naruto still appeared undamaged, they were more surprised to see a woman standing behind the blonde. A young woman with a voluptuous figure, long black hair with split bangs and hazel eyes with cat-like pupils. Her attire consists of a black kimono, a yellow obi, a set of golden beads, and an ornately detailed headband. The kimono features a red interior and it is open at her shoulders, giving view to her large breasts. Kuroka. Zabuza growled out, knowing the very lady that had saved the blonde from his attack. Seekvaira's eyes widened at hearing the name of the woman. Already here they were struggling against one devil, but against another one that was ranked as AS rank was now going to turn into a death mission. Naughty, Zabuza. Kuroka teased the stray, as she wrapped her arms around the blonde and hung off his back. Naruto was just surprised that someone had come to save him, but he still didn't know who she was. Who are you? Naruto was the only one who didn't really know who the young lady was, or how dangerous she is. He could see how Seekvaira had grown to be even more nervous with the appearance of Kuroka. But Zabuza seemed to only gotten more enraged. Was there something about this lady that he should know of? They said her name was Kuroka. Where did he hear that name before? You're that SS rank stray devil, Naruto said, finally remembering who the person is. Kuroka grinned, as she rubbed her cheeks on the back of Naruto's neck. While it did feel nice for the blonde, he still wanted to make sure that this was the Kuroka from the story he was told before. Ah, you now know who I am. Nya. Kuroka purred, as she turned her attention to the swordsman in front of them. Her eyes turned into slits. A quick flash of rage overcame her expression as she stared at Zabuza. I can't forgive you, Zabuza. She growled at him, unhappy. What are you doing here? Zabuza asked her, not even caring for her rage towards him. Kuroka hopped off the back of Naruto and walked towards the devil. The other two devils knew that this was the best moment to rest and waited for their next opening. What am I doing here, Nya? Kuroka repeated, as she tapped her chin with her finger. I was just passing by hoping to get a free meal, Nya. Imagine how happy I was when not only did I get a free meal, I found a person able to use senjutsu in a small village like this, Nya. The only downside was that the very person was in a devil peerage, Nya. But I decided to stay and see what that very person was doing. When he got into a fight, Nya. He would have lost the fight if he didn't use senjutsu, but he all did that without knowing how, Nya. And after he finally beat your little friend up and knocking her unconscious, but her companion is now trying to kill the very person who was kind to me, Nya. Naruto was happy to hear that Haku was still alive. He had thought he had killed her with the punch to the head, but he only knocked her unconscious. His mood went up at hearing this piece of information. For Zabuza, he was happy to hear that Haku is still alive, but he knew that Kuroka didn't tell him that to make him happy. No, she told him that to warn him that he was doomed. Asterisk rip asterisk in instance Zabuza arm was rip off his shoulder by Kuroka, surprising everyone in the small area. Zabuza let out a loud roar of pain, as his arm was ripped off as he took a step back as his blade fell to the ground, as he held his shoulder trying to stop the bleeding. I will kill you. Zabuza lowly whisper, holding his shoulder, angry that the deadly lady had just ripped his arm off. Even if he was going to die, he was going to try and kill Kuroka before he died. Kuroka smiled at her handiwork, as she dropped the very arm she ripped off. Zabuza pulled a hidden knife that he hid in his pants charred at the stray devil. Kuroka smiled never left her face as she pointed her hand at the charging devil. As he got closer to her, she used her powers and shot out an orb of energy at Zabuza. Within the next moment Zabuza fell down face first as the orb Kuroka created hit him in the leg. Looking down he saw a large strain of blood coming from his leg. Getting up, he tried to attack her once again, but life before Kuroka shot him down before he could reach her. Walking up towards the fallen swordsman, Kuroka created another orb of energy ready to end the life of Zabuza. Goodbye, Zabuza, Kuroka said, as she brought her arm down to strike him down. An inch away from slamming the orb into Zabuza's chest, Kuroka jumped away from the stray devil, as at the very moment a spear made of light flew through the air. Looking towards the directions of where the spear came from, she saw a figure in the distance. It wasn't only just one figure, it was multiple figures in the distance. Holy energy. Seekvaira commented on, shocked to see a holy spear had been thrown at Kuroka. She wasn't sure if it was aimed at the stray black cat, or it was fired at random, but once again another opponent had entered the battle. Not only that, they yet to revealing who they were. I'm not staying around for who is coming this way, Kuroka said to herself as she felt that she had done enough for the blonde. He had given her a free meal, in return she felt that she should return the small act of kindness. But she was not willing to fight a small group of enemies just for a couple of free fish. Summoning a teleportation seal, she got ready to leave the area. Just as she was about to walk into the seal, something occurred to her. Oh devil, NYA. Naruto and Seekvaira turned their attention to Kuroka. The black-haired beauty had her gaze looked onto Seekvaira. Since Naruto is able to use senjutsu, there is no possible way that you can teach him how to handle his power. What is your point, Stray? That one day you are going to have to make a choice. Either have Naruto go crazy with the power of senjutsu and destroy everyone around him, or you can give him to me and let me train him. Maybe even give him to me. Kuroka gave her a smirk, but Seekvaira's eyes widened. Kuroka did have a point, but there was no way that she was going to let either choice happen. She was born into the noble family of Agaras, and there was nothing that she couldn't overcome. Before she could open her mouth to tell of the dangerous woman, Kuroka teleported away. Now they needed to focus their attention onto the new enemy. Naruto. The blonde turned her attention to the silver-haired beauty. Be ready for our new enemy. Naruto nodded his head, and took a second to glance over Zabuza. While the big man was beaten down, he had yet to give in to his pain. As they waited for the mysterious enemies to finally show themselves, they were both exhausted from the previous battle. As the wind blew, one figure finally came into view. It was a woman, and she was dressed as a nun. Even with the large baggy robe, her voluptuous figure could be seen. Clear blue eyes stared at the two devils standing in front of her. And from her looks she seemed to be a woman in her late 20s or early 30s, and she seemed to be from Northern Europe and had features that were standing out like an actress. And lastly, on one of her hand there was a Q printed on the back of her hand. Young devils, can you two please stand aside? The soft silky voice from the nun said to the two. Seekvaira was surprised that the nun was simply ignoring the two. A part of her felt relief that the nun didn't want to fight her, but a small part of her pride felt insulted that she was being ignored. Who are you? Naruto asked the nun, surprised that once again Zabuza was the main target for another person. She turned to the blonde and gave him a bright smile. I am Griselda Quarta. I am Gabriel's queen and a former exorcist. There was no hint of malice in her voice. But even so, Naruto felt as if though he should run. She had yet to attack them, but he knew that he should feel relieved that she wasn't paying any attention to him. Why are you here, Angel? Zabuza questioned as he watched the angel walk towards him. He let out a small laugh, believing that she was now the angel of death for him and that his time was coming. I was told that an evil devil was in this small village and was brought in to rid this village of their problem. She calmly told him, as she stopped walking few feet away from the one-armed swordsman. A mission was sent out to the Vatican about a village being terrorized by a stray devil. A powerful one at that. And now here she was facing said devil. Seekvaira felt that she should do something, anything, knowing that the angel has left herself open to an attack. But a part of her brain told her to stand in her spot and do nothing. She chose to do nothing. I have been here for years now, Angel. I don't see why now you choose to finally confront me. Zabuza told her, as he slowly stood back up on his feet. He now knew why she was here, but still couldn't figure out as to who called her to this village. That is odd. I was told you recently came into this village, Griselda said, as she waited for the devil to attack him. Haku loves this village. I cannot allow anyone to take this village from her. Zabuza whispered to himself, with his only arm slowly reached for the combat knife to his feet. He couldn't allow himself to be killed here. Haku was still alive and this village is the one they had chosen to stay in for a long peaceful life. But now people wanted to take that away from them. He was not going to let it happen. Without a second thought he rushed towards the angel. Catching her by surprise he swung his knife for her throat, hoping to slit her throat open and kill her in one quick movement. While it might have worked on a common person, the person he was fighting was not a common person. As his blade came closer to cutting her throat, Griselda quickly avoided his attack. Without a second thought Griselda summoned a sword made of light cut off his last remaining arm. Jumping away from the angel, Zabuza knew his time was slowly coming. Both his arms were gone and he was surrounded by enemies. For a man who had seen many battles he knew that there was no other way for him to escape. Griselda was not going to allow him to rest. She began her chase for the injured devil. In no time she was once again in front of the swordsman and ready to deal the final strike. As she readied herself to bring her holy sword down, something came crashing into the side of her body, knocking her and whoever slammed into her into the ground. Looking up she saw that it was the blonde devil that had knocked her down. You don't have to kill him, he firmly told her, not wanting to see anyone to die today. He saw that everyone could just walk away from this fight. Griselda smiled at the blonde, happy to see that he didn't want violence, but she knew that Zabuza was not the type to be taken in alive. Seekvaira on the other hand was afraid. Naruto had put himself in the middle of the battle, and either one could kill him without any warning. I wish that could be true, she told him, as she pushed him away from her. She could feel that he had a pure heart, but at the same time knew that he had yet to realize what kind of situation this matter was. As she tried to get back on her feet she was once again knocked back down on her back. Now she was getting a little angry with the blonde devil. We don't have to fight. Once again Naruto was pleading with her. She wanted to tell him to stop being naive, but as she was about to open her mouth the sound of clapping was heard in the distance. The four devils looked to the source and saw a group of 10 was walking towards them. In each of their hands there was assault rifles in their hands. A large dark-skinned man was leading the group. Thank you, Angel. You did what me and my man were unable to do, the leader of the group told the four, as he let out a loud laugh. He had been waiting in the shadows for the perfect moment to strike and now was no better time than ever. Zeke. I thought you were no longer going to bother this village after I ran you out, Zabuza said, as he remembered the man's face. The very tyrant he had ran out was not back and with Angel on his side. No wonder why he was badly injured. This was all a setup from the very start. You did, but I just couldn't let myself lose my source of money. Griselda's eyes narrowed. Was she just used to do this man bidding? She was an angel, she could sense the emotions that go through human hearts. At first she had thought the darkness she was feeling was from the devils in the village and not once did she think that it was from this very male. He had reached out to the church and asked for help on defeating a devil. Not once did she think he was the evil one here. Hey sister, thank you for helping us kill this devil. I know it must be some kind of sin to lie to an angel, but I know I am going to hell with everything I have done in my life. He grinned to himself as he turned to his man. Bring me his head, and kill the rest. He ordered his man. As they all nodded their heads and started to march towards Zabuza. Griselda was in a predicament. She knew that she couldn't fight a human every chance. She could fall due to a rule. The rule made angels had to capture a human alive and not kill them. It had to because angel had to always forgive their enemy and not fall to the temptation of killing them. Seekvaira, seeing the group heading their way, knew she needed to do something. She was able to rest for a bit, and she could cast a spell to stop them, but since it was a large group she needed time to cast the spell to take them all out in one fell movement. Naruto didn't know what to make of their current predicament. Now the enemy was a human. Naruto was just confused on what to do now. Should he fight them or should he just walk away from the fight? For Zabuza, he gritted his teeth and knew that he was screwed. The combat knife was at his feet but he couldn't grab it. No arms meant there was little he could do to defend himself. He might be able to kill a few if he had the knife in his mouth, but he needed someone to give him his knife. Boy! Zabuza called out loud enough that Naruto could hear him. Naruto turned his attention to Zabuza, wondering what he wanted now. Didn't he know that they were in some big trouble? My knife. Give it to me. Naruto eyebrow raised, wondering what the stray devil had in mind, but knew that this wasn't the time to question his choice. Without a second thought he grabbed the knife and held it up for Zabuza. Why do you want it? I plan to kill them. Zabuza looked at the knife and a sad smile appeared on his face. He couldn't believe that today was going to be his last. After everything he went through, this was how it was all going to end. The only good thing was knowing that Haku was alive. If she had died, then he would have nothing in this world. Yes, since he had started taking care of Haku, he always told her that she was just a tool to him. But that was his way of protecting her. He thought that if she had grown up to be a warrior, that she wouldn't have to worry about anything in the world. Yet, he had grown fond of the young lady in his care. And he realized how much it hurt him when he thought Haku had died. And here he was, getting ready to leave her all by herself. He just hoped that she would forgive him in the future. Boy, Naruto looked at Zabuza, wondering why he wanted to talk to him now. Can you do me a favor? Naruto nodded his head, not sure what else he could do for the stray devil. Make sure that Haku is looked after. Let her know to live a long life. Can you do that for me? I can. Naruto wasn't sure why it had happened, but he had a tear ran down his cheek. He felt that he had seen this before, and just like before, he was powerless to do anything to prevent it. Zabuza smiled. At least Haku was going to be saved after he was gone. Quick as lightning, he chomped down on the knife that was still in Naruto's hand and rushed towards the enemy. They were surprised at Zabuza's actions, and even though they had better weapons, they couldn't keep up with his movements. One was taken down as Zabuza slashed his knife through his throat. Without missing a beat, he threw the knife into the enemy's skull, killing him. Before the man's body could hit the ground, he retrieved his knife from the man's skull. The rest of the group slowly started to get out of their surprise and started to aim their weapons at Zabuza. Once again, Zabuza was able to slash one down before he could shot, but the others started to let loose. Bullets flew through the air, all attempting to kill the devil swordsman, but Zabuza was able to dodge them. He slashed another two down before a bullet finally hit in the leg. Falling down to one knee, he struggled to get back up but was able to. He killed the one that shot him before charging the remaining enemies. He took out two more before the last one was able to land a few shots into his stomach. Zabuza started to see darkness, but forced himself to continue his onslaught as he was able to kill the remaining members. But knew that his job was not over. He still had to kill Zeke. With the last bit of strength he charged towards the direction Zeke was heading to. Zeke didn't know what had hit him. One moment he was enjoying the fact that Zabuza was finally going to be killed, and the next moment he heard screaming. He believed that the screaming was from Zabuza and the others. Not once did he think it was his man. When he turned around to see if any of his men had finished the job, he couldn't defend himself as Zabuza came into his view and sliced his head off. As Zeke's head fell to the ground, Zabuza hit the ground with a loud thump. He finished his final mission and there was no regrets for him. Coughing up blood, he saw that the Naruto, Seekvaira and Griselda were running to him. Smiling, he knew that he was able to do some good with his final actions, before he closed his eyes. Zabuza. Naruto rushed to his side, but as soon as he got there he saw that Zabuza was in a small pool of blood and had his eyes closed. Knowing that Zabuza might have passed away, he still felt that he needed to check up on Zabuza. Placing his head on Zabuza's chest, he tried to listen for his heartbeat, but he was met with nothing. It's rare for a devil to act with such noble intentions, the voice of Seekvaira said behind Naruto. Picking himself up, he turned to his master and saw that she was struggling with standing up. She had exhausted herself from dodging all of Zabuza's strikes but was amazed on his final moments. Naruto looked to his side and saw that Griselda was paying her respects to Zabuza. He didn't know what surprised him the most. That Zabuza had a golden heart, or the fact that an angel was giving a prayer to a devil. We will be taking his clever and that companion of his. Seekvaira knew that she had to head back home with evidence that Zabuza was dead. Taking his sword was proof enough, and that companion of his will be a great addition to her peerage. She saw how powerful Haku was at magic. Naruto nodded his head as he grabbed the fallen clever and became amazed on how much it weighed. After a couple of minutes of struggling to bring the blade to Seekvaira, he went to grab the unconscious form of Haku. Just as he was about to pick her up, a barrier made of light surrounded her prone from. He was surprised that she was being protected and at the same time wondering what had caused it. I cannot allow you to take her. Naruto turned his head and saw that Griselda was walking towards him. She had a smile on her face, and her hand was pointing at the unconscious body of Haku. What are you doing? Seekvaira asked as she stood next to Naruto, wondering why the angel was stopping them. While I did enjoy our little adventure together, I cannot allow you to force another into the devil peerage system. But we weren't going to do that. Naruto stopped talking as not once did he not hear that Seekvaira was not going to do this. She had wanted Haku, but she didn't say as to why. He figured out why she wanted to clever but not as to why she wanted Haku. Turning to see what Seekvaira was going to say about this, she instead kept her gaze looked onto the angel. My plans for her are none of your concern, Seekvaira harshly told her. If it was a devil matter then that would be true, but since this young lady is still human, it's my duty as an angel to protect her. Griselda walked to Haku's prone body and picked her up. If you truly wanted this young lady then you could always defeat me and take her by force. She told Seekvaira one of their options. But Seekvaira and Naruto were both exhausted, and Griselda had yet to truly fight, meaning she was fresh and at full strength. Seekvaira gritted her teeth. She was witnessing a powerful person slipping through her fingers. "Are you going to take care of her?" Naruto asked the angel. He didn't want to fight, nor did he anything to happen to Haku or Seekvaira. While he understood that he promised he would take care of Haku, as long as she was safe, then he was fine with this angel taking her away. He knew that one day he would be able to find Haku again, but for now Haku needed a place to recover after everything she had went through. "Of course. Then we should let her leave, Seekvaira," Naruto told the silver-haired beauty, knowing this was going to be a losing battle. While she was not pleased with the idea, she knew it was better if she allowed the angel to walk away with the mage user. On one hand, since Haku had been with a stray devil for years, she was still a human. Meaning that as a human she was free game to every faction. And she hated the idea on losing a new peerage member. Griselda, seeing that there was no more discussion about the matter, left with Haku in her arms. "I'm sorry, Seekvaira." Naruto knew that Seekvaira was probably angry with how his fight went and that Haku was not going to be joining them. Well, secretly he was glad that Haku was going to be allowed to keep her freedom, and be safe for the meantime. "It's fine." Seekvaira tried to brush off her loss, but deep down she was angry that she wasn't able to get Haku in her peerage. The end. Thanks for watching. Also remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.